DXKO Cagayan de Oro, DXXX Zamboanga, DXDX General Santos, DXKD Dipolo, DYKC Cebu, DXKI Iriga, DXKP Pagadian, DXKS Surigao, DXKT Davao, at DZRL Batak. DWIZ 882 Manila, mas pinalawak na pagpabalita, mas todong lakas na pagseserbisyo publiko. DWIZ. Rumoronda na ang asenso. Umaasenso na ang pagronda. Mula sa Rain Podcast Center, Manila, rumoronda na sa buong bansa ang asenso sa pamamagitan ng DWPR Dagupan, DZRL Batak, Ilocos Norte, DZBS Baguio, DZTC Tarlac, DZLT Lucena, DZYM Mindoro, DWRN Naga, DWRL Legazpi, DZKI Iriga, DYRL Bacolod, DYKB Bacolod, DYRB Cebu, DYKC Cebu, DYRM Dumaguete, DXOW Davao, DXKT Davao, DXCO Cagayan de Oro, DXKO Cagayan de Oro, DXGS General Santos, DXDX General Santos, DXJM Butua, DXOC Ozami, DXKS Surigao, DXKD Dipolo, DXKP Pagadian, DXXX Zamboanga City. Rumoronda din ang pag-asenso sa buong mundo sa pamamagitan ng www.rain.com.ph rain.com.ph. Ito ang pinagsanib na puwersa ng RPN Radio Ronda at Radio Corp Radio Asenso Nationwide. Nagpapa-asenso sa lahat ng Kapinoy sa buong bansa at sa lahat ng Kapinoy sa mang panig ng mundo. Ito ang Rain Ronda Asenso Internetwork.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda, DXDX General Santos, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Mas tulong lakas, Radyo Ronda Nationwide.
Oras may galas sa RPN Double DX Jensan, alas 9:02 sa buntag.
Magmabinantayon, ayaw pagdualuha. Kung ang imong nakita sa'yo, ipaibaw o isumbong sa programang Sumbong o Reaksyon. Sumbong o Reaksyon. Usa ka programang buhatag og katinawan sa mga pangutana katubagan sa inyong mga pagdualuha. Sumbong o Reaksyon. Kauban si Ronel Vigorio o Chris Ligaspi. Dinhi sa RPN Radio Philippines Network Jensa. Sumbong o Reaksyon. Gikan Lunes hangtod Biyernes. Matag alas 9 sa buntag hangtod alas 11 sa buntag. Sumbong o Reaksyon sa RPN Jensa. Ug karon, aniya ang inyong mga anchorman. Sumbong o Reaksyon. Sumbong o Reaksyon.
Baigala, may buntag na usab. Welcome sa laing edisyon sa atong pagpanaguban sa programa, ang Sumbong og Reaksyon diri sa RPN Double DX Jensa. Adlaw nga Martes. It's 29 karon may gala sa bulan sa September tuig 2020. Muto sabot may gala ugma pitsa 30 unya. Sunod ugma pitsa 1 na. October 1 na. Pasas panahon na. October, November, December. So, anak mga igsuon o mga karonda. So, may buntag sa tanan nato mga tigpaminaw karon may gala diri sa 26 ka barangay sa atong Dakbayan, no? May buntag sa ato mga opisyal sa syudad. Of course, gipangunahan ni Mayor Ronel Rivera. O gusab may gala sa atong Vice Mayor Attorney Ton Atsaron. Doon ay regular session karon sa Sangguniang Panglungsod. Karon tiyon may gala tangin ninyo kay atong ipalusot ang regular session sa Sangguniang Panglungsod. Sa akong nahibaw-an murag ang face-to-face nga session mahigala murag katunga lang sa capacity sa Sangguniang Panglungsod. The rest mahigala is naka-virtual. nagka-kuan lang through sa online, no? Virtual, naka-Zoom siguro. Sabay kuan gamito nila nga kuan, no? Kining portal sa atong kuan kinatawag nga internet mahigala sa ilahang ipahigayon nga regular session karong buntag alas 9 sa buntag. Atong i-monitor o mo hook up ta karon mahigala, mo hook up ta sa ilahang kuan, no? Ipahigayon nga regular session karong buntaga diha sa Sangguniang Panglungsod. Atangin ninyo mga igsoon ug mga tigpaminaw ug unsay mga importanteng agenda sa ipahigayon nga regular session sa Sangguniang Panglungsod. Pangunahan sa atong Vice Mayor, ang atong mga konsehal may gala dali lang kayo ha. Ang atong mga konsehal City Councilor Bing Dinopol, Ojok Atsaron, Likliktan, Jingakal, Kagawad Don Bumlagari, Kagawad Richard Atendido, Kagawad Edmar Yumang, Kagawad Jonathan Blando, Kagawad Dimdam, Kagawad Lucio Kawayan og City Councilor Banban Kungson, City Councilor Lourdes Casabuena, City Councilor Rosalita Nunez, City Councilor Chandeliedo Pestaño og City Councilor ABC President Lorelai Pacquiao. Of course, ang atong Vice Mayor sa syudad, City Vice Mayor Attorney Ton Atsaro. Muni may gala maglangkob sa ipahigayon nga ika-50th regular session sa Sangguniang Panglungsod diri sa General Santos City karong adlaw. O karon tiyod-tiyod inyong makita via virtual or via Zoom or via Facebook nga atong i-connect may gala dito sa Sangguniang Panglungsod ang ipahigayon nga regular session sa atong Sangguniang Panglungsod karong adlaw. Matangya og sa mga importanteng isgutanan sa ato aga syudad. Laban na karon may galas tunga-tunga sa global pandemic nga COVID-19. Nag-issue na may gala og resolusyon ang National IETF kon National Interagency Task Force nga ipailaw may gala ang General Santos City sa MGCQ, Modified General Community Quarantine. Pero una nang ning mando may gala si Jensen City Mayor Ronel Rivera sa local IETF po na ito may gala din sa syudad nga ipadayon extend up to October 15 ang GCQ kon General Modified Community Quarantine General Community Quarantine GCQ dili General Modified. Ang MGCQ medyo mas luag-luag siya kaysa GCQ. So karon gipailawom gyapon mahigala sa ginatawag nga GCQ Kutob October 15 as per pronouncement, as per declaration mahigala ni Jensen City Mayor Ronald Rivera. Pero asa kay mo prevail ani, asa kay masunod ani, no? Ang order ba gikan sa national government nga ipailawom na ta sa MGCQ onya ilawom onya sa MGCQ pwede nang mga break usab ang mga mga leisure establishments og posibleng appeal nga maabrehan mahigala ang mga border under MGCQ. So tangin ninyo mahigala og unsay mga dugang katikaran, dugang update kabahinan. Oy, murag okay na, murag nasugod na ang regular session sa Sangguniang Panglungsod. Karon da Chris, so hook up ta karon, hook up ta sa Sangguniang Panglungsod sa regular session. Para mahibaw na to gonsay katikaran sa ipahigayon nga regular session karong buntaga. Good morning karon da Chris.
Morning karon Daniel og sa to mga suking tigpaminaw nagauban sa programang Sumbong og Reaksyon.
Yes.
May adlaw Martes kanina
Ay
tanan.
buntag sa musta ang biyahe? Gara kayo.
Sukol ba sukol murag luag-luag ganahan ko ani
Luag?
Luag kay naka-clustering ba? So
naka-clustering.
Dili magdungan ang sakyanan.
Yan, tinangod na.
Kag malangay-langay ka murag sutoy-sutoy ra imong dagan.
So okay ra. So at least tingani. Pero ingon ang National IETF ipailaw na punta sa MGCQ.
Lagi na duwag na pud.
Order man ang national. So asa may matuman ang order ni Mayor sa local IETF?
Lahi pa tong kwan,
or
lahi
sa
pa tong
national?
extension.
Mo lagi na nag-order si Mayor
Modified
extended
General Quarantine?
up to October 15 ang iyang order no ni Mayor up to October 15. Pero ang National IETF ning ingon nga ipailaw na ta sa MGCQ. So amot pasabot kisay matuman ani asa ang order nga matuman ani Sige, mangutan na punta sa ato mga opisyal sa syudad ani no. Ilabi na kang Mayor Ronel Rivera siguro pangutanon na to siya. Sabay may tabo ni Mayor MGCQ manggod pabrihan na pog usab atong mga leisure establishments no, apil na tong mga nightclubs katong mga atuanan ni kwan ba Giovanni ba katong
Atuanan asa na si Giovanni?
basin nabuntagan po. Kasama to sa
Batay. Di, basig na iyang ate dito. Nabot yung ate kay...
okay mo.
Oo, gatiman. Pero na siyang ate nga wala yung masaligan ba?
Dito. So, sa mga kaigsunan na to, nga, kung ano, nagsubaybay po dani, atong hulaton, unsa mahimong order sa mayor na to, ani, kay, wa pa may executive order karon na Chris ningon naman siyang extended up to October 15 ang GCQ. Pero mo matter ni kay og nay order ang National IATF nga ipailaw na ta sa MGCQ.
Mas luag na mas gaan.
Mo matter ni kung mag-issue og executive order ang mayor, basig i-consider niya nga katong order po sa National IATF. Di man pod pwede nga kung baga magbuot-buot ta diri sa local bisag ingnan na ta nga mag MGCQ na ta. So sa to pa posibleng i-consider ni Mayor. I don't know atong hulaton. Ang kolba man gyud ani karon da Chris kay Koto bra ugma ang gihatag sa Sukotay Koto sa mga bill sa kuryente, di ba? Nagpirma man dito og promissory note kutob September 30. Pag October 1, massive kining massive nga pagpamutol kuno og kuryente sa mga member consumers kadtong wa kabayad kay ning saad man ang mga tao nagpromissory note man so karon mao ni ang problema ron. So sige lang kay i-communicate nato within today ang atong Sukotay Koto. Paningkamutan gyud ako nga makuhaan gyud og statements si General Manager Jerry De Sisto ang ato ang OICGM paningkamutan na to siya nga makuha na to siya statements ani kung unsa ba gyud ituloy ba gyud nila ang massive nga pagpamutol og kuryente sa mga member consumer owners considering nga wa pa gyud kabawi ang mga tao ba wa pa gyud kabangon ba why sideline why duty why klarong sweldo why overtime wala tanan ba so kumbaga sinabtan na ra unta gani bisag kita gani karon da Chris wa pa ginato na ato og bayad tanan kay di gyud makaya
gani man
di makaya sa financial nato karon so unsa na lang tong uban in taon nga dili ginatawag nato nga mga essential workers nga kana bang stay at home ra gyud advice nga stay at home ra nya naka-cluster ta so siguro pigado ba PG ba pigado so sato pa mas mayo unta nga mag-issue og statement sa Sukotay Koto nga i-reconsider gamay naay gamay consideration no karong panahon na kay naata sa kalisod pa gyud pero ingon mo gud sila karon da Chris taas na daw kay kuno ang lugway nga gihatag unya kadto ganing last time gipabayad gyud ang member consumers og at least katunga no sa ilahang bill kadto na accumulate atong mga bulan nga wa po naningil og pugos ang Sukotay ko. Karon
bali ugma
nag-promissory note man gud ang mga tao gipapirma sila promissory note sa Sukotay ko nga up to September 30 lang. So karon kung wa ka kabayad sa September 30 sa October 1 onwards massive og pagpamutol na ang Sukotay ko kadtong wa kabayad. So ambot pasabot maputlan gyud ta ani kadtong wa pagkabayad. Dako gyud ang problema ni.
Pwede mo ang call?
Mao na. Mao na giingon nga, call ang yo mi call. Ay may putlik kay paitit taw kay maputlan ta ko.
Ay lag putlig to mo call.
Watay suga sa balay, watay electric pan, wala tay unsa nga mga basic nga ginagamit nato. So paitas kinabuhi karon da Chris og way kuryente no.
Ay lag putla call.
Maputol ang kalipay daw, kalipay.
Ay lag putla call ang among ang tumoy sa imong pailob na mo.
Pero kwan, rest assured, RPNWDX no atong paningkamutan nga makuha og statements karong adlaw yon. Ang Sukotay Koto, either sa ilaha kinsa si ISD baka si Ma'am Joy Alora, si Sir Jerry De Sisto, ang atong spokesperson sa Sukotay Koto. Kay ugma na lang gud ni Kutob, ang September 30 ugma na gud. Kapot pasabot after ugma mamutol na sila.
Bye-bye.
So, saan na lang? Babay ta. Babay atong kuryente ani. Oh, di man ni makayag lampara lang.
Practice na mo og kanang atos langob.
Mao ni ang problema.
Solar na lang daw sila karon Ronel.
Solar? Mahal man po ang solar. Solar power na kay solar mugana rag isa og tunga ka oras nya napalong na pod. Solar. Di ka kasaksak og appliances, solar. Mao na ang solar. Sa lisod niya mahal pod ang kuryente kung solar power generated mahal pod kay tungod pod sa technology sa solar. So nga gikan pa sa Europe, gikan pa sa US, gikan pa sa laing mga nasod, man nga mahal pod ang kuryente nga gi-generate sa solar. So diri kita sa Coteco nga kanang gikan sa mga coal-fired power plant, gikan sa kining diesel plant, bunker fuel uban pa diha nga sources apil na ang kuano kanang sa Mount Apo, kanang power nga nakuha gikan sa binuga diha sa steam sa Mount Apo, sa patong ubang mga power sources nato. So mixed generation mo gud ni sa kuryente nga power supply nga gikan sa ato ang lalay mga power suppliers og mao ni ang gibaligya diri sa Coteco unya gihatag pod sa Coteco ngadto sa mga tao. Unya siyempre ang Coteco daw ang explanation ni mubayad man po sila dito sa mga power suppliers nila. Ginasingil po daw sila, nakautang po daw sila dito. Kaya wala lagi namayad ang mga member consumers. So karon gikuan kanila nga ipadayon na gyud nga mamutol na lang gyud sila kung di gyud mo bayad. Kay mura kung baga para mapwersa nga mo bayad tungod kay ang sitwasyon pwede pong maputlan ang Coteco to. Saan na lang sa 160,000 member consumers sa Coteco kung sila mismo ang maputlan karon da Chris mo ni pinakapait. So, morning kuan lang tinabangay lang kuno. Tinabangay lang mamayad lang kuno ang mga household consumers, ang mga industrial o commercial consumers na to, tanan-tanan kay para ang Coteco to makabayad po sila sa ilang power suppliers sa mga generators na to. Unya kita mamayad po ta sa Coteco to.
Ano ba ako karon pila na ang per cubic na to ron? Ay cubic per kilowatt hour.
Wala ko ka update pero katong last time nga nag-interview ko sa Coteco murag 10 pesos per kilowatt hour ang rate karon sa 10 or more than 10 murag kapin 10 ana. More or less na lang kay di na ko makuan exactly. So sa ato pa para sa mga member consumers karon sa Coteco to kuan na lang gid ni tinabangay daw ni so bayad kita ugma ra gyud ko to og di ta makabayad ugma basig Lunes Lunes kining pitsa 1 sa Oktubre basig putlan na ta kuryente
practice nang tanig kuan nang wala na
practice taglampara ang gamit okay na ni Jan ipasulod na nato Jan
pwede ka nang anak ka kiss-kiss na lang kag Genie
kiss
sa imong lampara
there
pagkabayad kas kuryente
patayon ita bedan.
Mang ambing lampara.
Ako na nang ginauna karon nga panalitan.
Mangis-kiss ka?
Kiss kita ni.
Kiss papang.
Kiss mami kita ni, kiss mami. Wa kita may mo ni kay umingon gyud ang Coteco nga mamutol gyud sila. Ilagin ang katungod kay sa uman nga wa man namayad ang mga tao pero wa nakabayad ang mga tao tungod man pud sa pandemic ba. Karon da Chris na ang sangguniang palungsod.
Kana sige sunod na to.
Pasulod karon. Okay. I-off sa ning kwan. I-off sa nato dai lang. Pula. Okay. Okay, ato na ipasulod. Uy, wa may audio. Unsa man ni? Ning porma man ni si ba? Kagawad ban kong son, kuya may porma. Ay, happy birthday di ay. Nana, pero hinay.
Happy birthday, Kagawad Banban. Do not shed tears. Reserve your tears for the lesson later on.
Birthday din ni Kagawad kung son. Si Vice Mayor Attorney Ton at Saron mo ay nag-preside karon sa ilang session. Kusog na unta pero ning pilit. Okay na po na. Sige. Wala man by sounds.
Balik si
Okay.
First of all, thanks for
58th regular session. Birthday ni Kagawad Banban Kungson.
And secondly, to my political family.
Birthday one.
Even
Birthday.
though lain-lain taog o
Pilit ang ilaha siguro, pilit hinay.
But I
Ang
feel
ilang internet or ato ang internet ang hinay.
nagkaisa kita tanan.
Dili ilaha, to agin na.
We encourage each other.
Dili
We
ilaha.
support each other.
Kusog na maka. Kusog na.
Langara naman gamay.
For 5 years being a public servant,
Birthday wad.
na-maintain yun ang brotherhood sa ato dinhi, for all the staff nag-support sa ko pagsugod pa lang na wala gyud koy proper education on how ang pagdala din sa sulod, but continue with
Wala pa man niya kay kuan. Wa
pagtabang
man gi-mention niya pila yang
pagtudlo sa
edad.
ko. Thank you so much.
Wa pa pud ni siya senior citizen siguro.
Sa akong mga staff, salamat kayo na sometimes mura o harsh ra kay ko sa inyo kay natay gusto na ma-achieve, but you still continue to be humble sa ako ang mga sugo, and sige lang, librehon tanang mo. And to everybody, thank you so much and God bless atong tanan.
Just, after you want to greet also the birthday celebrant?
And
Okay.
I just want to greet the
Regular session ha, 58th regular session sa Guniang Panglungsod karong adlaw, karong buntaga.
And we have a very big family. And you know, as a person, I like him because he is not the vocal type, but he is a doer. Silently is working, giving help to the poorest of the poor. He loves to go to the barangay and, share something for what he has. So congratulations as you celebrate. May you continue to be humble as ever as I've known you. And don't be afraid. As far as the council is concerned, speak your mind if you wish to, because this is a deliberative body where you can share everything what you want. You're always welcome. Especially this time of pandemic, I know there are some apprehension that you feel, but I can assure you that this will end. Congratulations for your being understanding. As a colleague of the Sangguniang Panglungsod, you know I love you as a son. Congratulations and God
Si
bless.
City Councilor Lourdes Kasaboy na ni mga igsoon.
Thank you, Honorable Kasibana. Thank you, and again, happy birthday, Honorable Banban Kongson. Now the 50th regular session of the 19th Sangguniang Panglungsod of General Santos is now called to order. The Secretary.
Have a roll call. Honorable Lorito Acheron.
Present.
Honorable Jose Orlando Acheron. Here. Honorable Rosalita Nunez. Honorable Lourdes Sabuena. Honorable Jose Edmar Yumang. Honorable Brixton. Honorable Franklin Gakal Jr. Honorable Dominador Lagari Jr. Honorable Shanti Teresa Stanyo.
Present.
Honorable Jonathan Blando.
Present.
Honorable Manday Kongson.
Present.
Honorable Vivencio Dinopol is on leave. Honorable Richard Atindido. Honorable Lucio Kawayan Sr.
Present.
Honorable Lorely Pacquiao. Honorable Jan Salvador Dimdam. We have 15 members present with 1 absent. Honorable Dinopol.
Kagawad Dinopol lang ang wala, no? On leave.
With that number, the Sangguniang session is in quorum. Let us proceed.
On leave.
Okay, our next item is the reading and adoption of the minutes of the 49th.
The Honorable Acheron is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, good morning to our handsome Vice Mayor and my colleagues, to our friends, visitors, and friends from the media, and to all employees of the Sangguniang Panglungsod. Good morning.
Si Kagawad Ojo Kacharon may gala ang floor leader.
The reading of the minutes of the 49th regular
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the reading of the minutes of the 49th regular session be dispensed with. Hearing no objection, the reading is dispensed with.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The Honorable Charon is again recognized.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move for the adoption of the minutes of the 49th regular session.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the minutes of the 49th regular session be adopted. Is there any correction to be made in the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes of the 49th regular session is now adopted.
Next item, privilege hour. Our speaker is to present to us the business climate in the city during the new normal. Honorable Dominador Lagari Jr.
The Honorable
Gawad Lagari mo avail sa privilege hour.
Recognized. That's why you led the prayer, because you are going to avail of the privilege.
Yes, it's my second time to take this podium, Mr. President.
This month.
So walay virtual
Today,
ano gyapon
today.
eh. Session fist of latanan gyapon no.
Is it audible? Or should I remove my mask?
You can remove it.
Okay.
There's no one infected as of this time.
Because some people are complaining, Mr. President, we're being beamed live. So, well, I just want to...
Okay kayo
settle that,
imong
first
audio.
and fo-
Kagawad Lagari, okay kayo.
Vice Mayor, and you're far from each other.
Ningon mo ko siya nga
I think
nag-complain
it has to do with the microphone, Mr. President.
Sa microphone na, kanang microphone na.
The ones feeding me.
Nindot na.
Okay.
But I am
Kagawad
not
Junjun Lagari.
infected with any virus, Mr. President.
Okay. That's for the record.
Thank you, Mr. President.
That's on record.
Mr. President, my esteemed colleagues of the 19th Sangguniang Panglungsod, my friends from the media, the ever hardworking staff of the Sangguniang Panglungsod, and I've been soliciting their help for in many instances, Mr. President. Our guests in the gallery, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, our speaker for today, he just distributed to us this black book. And this is the first time I got hold of this black book, Mr. President. He is the author. And in fact, his credentials can be read at the back of the book. I didn't know that he is also a social media influencer with more than 100,000 followers in Facebook. So that's a wow for me. Now, our speaker for today, by the way, Mr. President, this is part of the series on trade and commerce. And I asked the help of one of our speakers. I haven't met him personally yet, but I think he's listening to us right now because he has a prepared speech, actually, Mr. President. But we can ask our questions later on, just like what we did with Mr. Elmer Catulpos 3 weeks ago. Now, our speaker for today, Mr. George B. Anas Jr., RN, is a registered nurse who gave up his profession and embraced the journey of entrepreneurship. He failed in, well, this guy is not shy to admit his failures, Mr. President, which I think is a hallmark of somebody who will have success in life. I think failures are a part of our successes. He failed in 7 businesses. He was bankrupt with 2 million pesos at the age of 23 years old. When I was 23 years old, I think I do not have this much money. Until now, Mr. President.
Very humble of you.
George is currently the chairman and chief executive officer of Sure Trust Group Incorporated, a company he co-founded with his wife, Charmelyn Bandila Anas, who was born and raised in General Santos City. So a true-blooded native of General Santos City. In 2018, he was recognized by the Asia Pacific Excellence Awards as Outstanding Young Entrepreneur. He is also a recipient of the 2019 Outstanding Young Company Executive. Currently, he is the executive chef and chief of Uwishi Ramen Bai. Uwishi meaning in the vernacular, sarap. A homegrown restaurant in General Santos that was established at the height of the pandemic. He is a father, a husband, and a passionate advocate of small businesses. And so on the topic of why small businesses matter, our honored guest, let us welcome Mr. George Anas Jr.
Can we suspend the rules first?
I move for the suspension of the House rules.
On motion which is duly seconded, the House rules are suspended.
George Anas Jr.
It looks like Elmer
ang kining gitawag nato nga guest karon diya sa 50th regular session atol sa privilege
power can speak louder. While people who have more power can listen harder.
ay virtual di ka dili de face to face nga guest
And
ni
it only
virtual
confirms that I made the right decision to move from Iloilo City to General Santos along with my family 5 years
man
ago.
nila gikuan silang kamera.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is both an honor and privilege to be given this rare opportunity to speak before these honorable and distinguished members of the City Council of General Santos. Today I am to share my humble story from a small business owner to becoming a CEO.
Uy, nawala ang audio. Nawala man ang audio sa ilang guest. Technical adjustment. Good morning sa Good morning sa kang Idjon Timon. Good morning dia Ate Barbie. Maria Elia Barrera, good morning.
And what we can do
Ma'am.
to help them.
Kang Danilo Di
We know
Gorio,
what
good
it feels
morning.
to lose a business. We know what it feels to go bankrupt and have nothing. 5 years ago, my wife and I started our small business with very limited capital. We had no inheritance. We were not privileged enough to be born to a rich family. We didn't have the opportunity to be included in a connected economy. And so we had to work hard at a young age. I started at 23, she started at 21. She came to Iloilo from Jensen in order to provide for her family. That is where we met, and that is how our love story started. It is indeed difficult to start a small business. We had to have sleepless nights. We had to give up our apartment. We had to move to our office and live there. And sometimes we would skip meals just to keep our business afloat. That is what it takes to build and sustain a small business. And that is why it pains me so hard to see small businesses today suffer. A lot of them are dying. A lot of them are giving up. A lot of them are on the verge of closing down. And in fact, thousands of small businesses have finally bowed down to this pandemic. And millions of people have lost their jobs. And it's such a heartbreaking scene coming from the perspective of a small businessman who started with nothing. And so today, I am here to talk about these important matters. I am here to talk about this last talked about topic, but I believe that this is one of the most important topics that we need to discuss now more than ever. Because of COVID-19 crisis, our businesses have suffered. People are no longer buying cars. Traveling is no longer possible. Canada, Australia, and New Zealand have closed down their borders for our students. And on March 11 of 2020, we opened a small ramen shop located uptown in Purok Malakas. On our first day, we had an overwhelming reception. People were lining up for an hour. We had sold 150 bowls of ramen at least in a day. But 4 days later, we had to close down because a nationwide lockdown was imposed by the national government. But despite the hurdles, we didn't let this pandemic cripple us totally. If we couldn't walk, we crawled, and so we crawled. And today, our small business, ramen restaurant, has kept on thriving. Because of overwhelming demand, we have increased our production capacity, and we have kept hiring people over the last few months. And we made sure to hire people who have lost their jobs during this pandemic. And at the same time, we made sure to buy our supplies, 80% of our supplies from online sellers and local suppliers in lieu of big supermarkets. That, even if it means paying more, that even if it means lesser revenue, but it doesn't matter, because I believe from the bottom of my heart that now more than ever is the perfect time for small businesses to help one another, to take care of one another. Because if we won't, who will? And I'm also happy to share with you that on October this year, we will be opening our second branch located along Bentoton Avenue. We will be opening another branch in Coronadal, in Baguio, and in Davao City before the year ends. This all happened in the midst of this crippling pandemic. And so I believe that when small businesses have the right knowledge, have the right amount of resources, have the right amount of support, they can make it. And they will make it. This crisis opened our eyes to what is truly essential. That the purpose of doing business is not just about making money, but making an impact in the lives of people around us. And so I humbly call on my fellow businessmen from General Santos, both big and small, to embrace a new culture. A culture that is moved by purpose over profit. A culture that prioritizes the welfare of the people over our personal gains. And most importantly, a culture that values the importance of significance over success. So what can we really do to help small businesses? Please let me be very clear about this. Our small business owners do not need to go out. What they need is our direction. What they need is our guidance as industry leaders who have paved the way for them. I would like to commend the City Council of General Santos for passing bills that are beneficially crucial to our small business owners. From free public market rental for 6 months to 50% discount on business tax for the year 2020, which was principally offered by Honorable Councilor G. Gahan and Honorable Councilor G. Gahan. Sirs, your concern for small businesses is highly appreciated. I believe in the future of our small businesses. A lot of them have the potential to grow. They can be the next Manginasal, Jollibee. They can even be the next Henry C. and build the biggest conglomerate in the country. But unfortunately, they lack the opportunity to be in a connected economy where they can have easy access to funds, referrals, resources, and connections. And the only way for you to access and be in a very special portion of the business community is when you are already a big businessman yourself. And to me, it's counterintuitive to the purpose of why we became successful and why so much resources have been put into our hands. Because I believe that with great power comes great responsibility. And that responsibility lies in the hands of the people who are there at the top. So take, for example, this cassava maker in General Santos. They're using an improvised oven. A barrel, they turn it into a barrel and use a stove and turn the whole thing into an oven that bakes at least 16 cassava tops in an hour, which is a fantastic way, or a fantastic means of maximizing the capacity. And we tried the product and we fell in love with it. And more than falling in love with the product, more than falling in love with the product itself, we fell in love with the idea of innovation, with the idea of determination, with their persistence, with their perseverance, with their fighting spirit to keep on moving forward and fight the good fight amidst this crippling pandemic that we are in today. And so I believe that the only way for us to be able to beat this pandemic once and for all is to help small businesses. When we help small business owners, we are helping people get more jobs. We are helping in putting food on the table for every family. As I close, let me share this inspiring story that transpired in Japan a few years ago. At the height of global crisis in 2008, a group of Japanese CEOs made a difference. Their industry was probably one of the most affected. They were suffering a huge hit. They were bleeding in cash themselves. But what they did is that they pulled their funds and resources and create a community where whenever someone would need help or a company would need help in terms of finances, they would readily offer it in order for that certain company to stave off the possibility of getting into bankruptcy. And we know what happens, right? Japan was probably the hardest hit nation in 2008. But in only 8 months, they were able to get back on their feet. And they were the very first country to recover from the same crisis. And I'm sharing that because it's relevant to our situation today. I believe that the only way for us to beat this pandemic and to rise up as a nation once again is for us to help one another, to focus on building each other up, and destroy the idea of putting each other down. To quote one of my favorite leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in the end, we will not remember the words of our enemy, but the silence of our friends. Today I chose to speak up on this delicate matter because I am a believer in the potential and the future of small businesses. Because when we help small business grow, and we help small business win, we all win.
Okay. Mao to may gala ang guest ni Kagawad John Lagari.
Thank you, Mr. President.
About small
I think Mr. George
businesses.
Anas is here with us virtually and remotely, Mr. President. And if there are no reactors first, let me react on his prepared speech, Mr. President. Or should I allow him to speak first, Mr. President?
Maybe we can allow him first to make a
Okay.
concluding statement of his presentation. Mr. Anas, go ahead, please.
Good morning, members of the Council of General Santos. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be able to speak out on behalf of small businesses. It's really indeed well appreciated. I decided to talk about small businesses because I was a small businessman myself when I started a few years ago. And I have been looking at the situation in our city today, and they are in dire need of our help in terms of support, in terms of giving them direction. And a lot of them have actually closed down already. And many of my friends who also own small businesses have decided to go home late because this pandemic has really hit them so hard. And so I believe that it is high time for us to discuss this matter. And I thank you all for lending me your ears in hearing the plight of small businesses. Because I believe that the foundation of the global economy is the future of small businesses. And even in Gensan and General Santos, there are a lot of potential for small business owners, but they eventually die because they lack the support and opportunity to be connected to be included in a connected economy, as I said in my speech. And so, if you allow me later on, I would like to give concrete suggestions, unsolicited suggestions to your honorable councilors. We can probably do something about it, and so we can connect our small businesses and give them, allow them to also learn, especially this time that they really need our support in terms of technological training, going online, giving them enough support in terms of how they do business, and eventually help them to navigate and to adapt in this new normal that we are in today.
May I, Mr. Speaker?
The Honorable Lagari.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, George, thank you for the kasaba. And this has been mentioned during your speech. So I am excited to taste this one. And I think everyone has his own kasaba, Mr. President. This is care of Mr. George Anas. And secondly, just 2 points, Mr. President. First is that in his concluding statement, he mentioned about the Japanese way and how the Japanese helped each other. The businessmen, they pulled their resources together in order to help their compatriots, also businessmen. And I think that's how Japanese are able to survive. But there's really more to this than meets the eye. Because unlike the Filipino way of doing it, in college, we're very individualistic in the sense that to each his own. But in Japan, it's quite different the way they do things there, Mr. President. Even at an early age and up to their college level, what they have is this cell-like structure wherein maybe a group of 5 or 6 of these Japanese during college, they already help each other along the way. It's like para ba silang naka-block, pero ang block natin dito in the Philippines, parang isang class, no? But this one is different, no? Talagang they work together in a cell-like structure. Maybe a group of less than 10 Japanese, and they help each other in many ways, no? Whether in academics or financial, and this attitude they bring with them even up to their professional life. So I'm really not surprised that this is happening in Japan, and this is laudable and something that we should emulate as Filipinos, because I think honestly, no, I think sa atin sa Pilipinas, mga Pilipino, parang medyo idja-idja, Mr. President, and we sometimes even we bask in the fact that some of our countrymen are suffering or languishing. So I think we should look towards our Asian neighbor when it comes to this kind of attitude.
It's like also in the spirit of the cooperative.
Yes, I'm going to that, Mr. President. So when he mentioned, Mr. George mentioned that these Japanese pool their resources together. Actually, there are some sectors in our society, despite what I've said earlier, there are some sectors in our society which do just that. Like, for example, the Filipino Chinese. I think that's how they do things also. They help their other Filipino Chinese brethren. And I think, I know of at least one hardware owner here. He has a very big hardware store somewhere in Santiago Boulevard. And I think that's how he was able to be successful in his business. He came from San Pablo City in Quezon Province, Mr. President. But when he uprooted his family there and started the business here, I think the Chinese sector was the one who really helped him in establishing this business. And another sector is what else? Cooperatives, Mr. President. It's an association of like-minded people. They have a common bond of interest, and well, you know that because I've already availed of many privileged hours, and I presented also these cooperatives. So that's also one way of, I guess, concretizing what Mr. George Anas has said. And lastly, when I just want to highlight the fact that I think it's really laudable what you've been doing, Mr. George Anas. I do not know if some of our businesses, whether large or small, are also doing this. The procuring their inputs to their end product, 80% of their inputs from the local producers. That's what he said, Mr. President, during his speech. So, well, 3 months ago, I also presented this Indian lady, one of the 7 most influential women in the world, by the name of Vandana Shiva. That's what she was saying, the principle of circularity, so that the raw materials as well as the money will just be circulating in a local economy. That is the kind of thing that we need. So I hope that our 10,000 plus SMEs, small and medium enterprises, will also emulate what Mr. George Bedia Anas has been doing. Thank you.
So that's how it said. Instead of virus circulating by local transmission, it should be money circulating global in the local economy.
Yes.
That's well said. That's well said. So, Honorable Tagari?
Si Vice Mayor Attorney Ton Atcharon ang presiding officer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to
Si
congratulate
Kagawad Lourdes Kasabuhay na napod may gala.
He's not around.
Muhatag o reaction
failed
or mga
7
pangutana
times
sa ilahang
as far as
guest.
business is concerned, yet he did not give up. I was trying to browse his book and it says there, never give up. I think that's a very nice, shall we say, no? Never give up, but try and try again. So everybody should emulate from him because he failed 7 times and now he's a well-known entrepreneur. And thank you for the cassava cake this morning. Though I did not taste it yet, but I think it's nice, it's tasty. So congratulations there, and I hope that other young entrepreneurs will follow you. I hope you can be a consultant to them so that there will be more business in General Santos. Congratulations and God bless you more.
Thank you, Honorable.
The Honorable Gakal is recognized. After that, Honorable Cristiano is recognized. And also Honorable Lando.
Okay.
Thank
City
you,
Councilor
Mr.
Jing Gakal.
Chairman. Magandang umaga po, Mr. Rana. As an entrepreneur, I'd like to have your stand or opinion on the imposition of community quarantines in the city. I know that lockdowns, strict community quarantine kill SMEs. No? Now, the city has imposed GCQ. The national IATF said that Johnson must be MGCQ. So what is your stand on this? Do you think the city is correct or the city is wrong?
Thank you, Honorable Councilor Shinga, for the question. Well, as an entrepreneur, in the front line, I've experienced the skills to do business in the midst of the community quarantine in GCQ and GCQ. And I think that, to me personally, in my opinion, there is a need for the city government to evaluate the measures that we're implementing in the city today. Because I believe that we are on a, presently in the last 2 weeks, we were put on GCQ status. But the thing is, some of the guidelines in the executive order are actually applicable only for ECQ areas. And we know that when we're in ECQ areas, you are protected from paying bills, you're protected from paying rent and all that. But when you are in a GCQ status, you don't get any support from the government, you don't get any protection. And I think that is one of the reasons why a lot of small businesses today here in Vietnam are also suffering. I have friends who own small businesses, and most of them have really expressed their big concerns in terms of how the policies are being crafted. But the thing here is, we understand that in this situation we are caught between the bosom and the people's teeth. We want to be able to contain the virus, but we cannot be able to afford to see small businesses die eventually, especially that we do not have even enough support for them. So I guess that with the GCQ status, I think that it has to be congruent to the national declaration on what should be the status of one city. And if there are probably some changes that we need, maybe we can also amplify and fortify the economic side of it. Because if we only focus on health, probably there will be a lot more people who will die of hunger, people who will die of sickness because they cannot be able to afford to buy medicine for their sick family or buy food for their children and more. So I think that this is a crucial time to examine, and this is not the time for us to stay complacent. We have to be proactive in crafting the policies and guidelines in order for us to coordinate fully with the health department, with the state health, with the people who are implementing the guidelines. So it should not be just about health, it should also be in agreement with what is really happening in the local economy today. So as a businessman, Honorable Councilor, that is my stand on your question, sir.
Okay, thank you. I am a believer of the statement that paano ang buhay kung walang hanap buhay, di ba? Personally, I don't agree with the city IATF. They just extended the GCQ. In fact, from the start, when they declared GCQ, I believe it is all illegal. It is a violation of Executive Ordinance 112, dated April 30, 2020, signed by President Duterte, which says under Section 2, all decisions in the imposition, lifting, or extension of a community quarantine in provinces, highly urbanized cities, independent component cities shall rest in the IATF. So the CIATF cannot do something which contravenes what the IATF says. Last night, or what's it last night? Or the other night, I can't remember anymore. The IATF declared that Jensen should be MGCQ. I think as entrepreneur, you should talk to the mayor or talk to the IATF, CIATF. Thank you.
Honorable Pisangelo, the principal distributor of the attractive face mask, now being supported by majority of the members of the council.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and good morning to my colleagues and everybody present in the gallery. And of course, to our guest this morning, Mr. George Ana. First of all, congratulations for all your achievements. And of course, thank you for the cassava and the book. Mr. Chair, it always amazes me when we come across young individuals who have succeeded on their own. And that's my point of gusto kong i-point out na this morning that I'm amazed that in the midst of us, there's a young individual who is able to write a book. This one, The Breaking Free. I'm sure this is because of his personal, account and his experiences. And I think he will, as an influencer, having 100,000 followers in Facebook is already a big number. You can be a source of inspiration, especially to the youth of General Santos. And influencers nowadays are more relevant because we rely on online information and we come across many different opinions. And I hope you will be able to guide the youth of General Santos now because you are now a general, having lived here for a long time, and your wife being a general as well. So, Mr. Chair, maybe if we can request Mr. George Ana, sana you can donate some of your books to our local library. Para ma-recognize naman yung gawa mo, and our mga estudyante here can read your experience and of course learn from it. And hopefully, since you are now introduced to the members of the council and also to the members of the officials of the government, hopefully you can continue your commitment you can give your commitment to help us, of course, and give voice to young entrepreneurs like yourself. So that's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Pisangelo. Thank you. The Honorable Blanco is recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Presiding Officer. Good morning, Sir George. Ana. May I know if are you related to the Anas family residing at Arduña Street in Barangay Lagaw?
No, sir. I was born and raised in University, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Now, I just want to thank you, as what said while ago with my other colleagues, with your lamig kayo na kasaba. Thank you so much for that. And of course, your book that you have given to us. Seems like I'm not yet done reading the book, but when I look at it, when I read your history, it could sometime a helpful tool for some of those who are dreamers, with this kind of book that you've got in the ups and downs and the breakthrough. Hopefully that being an entrepreneur, you can share your God-given talent somehow to coach to those people who are dreamers, especially in line with the business. Once again, thank you so much. Keep up a good work and God bless you.
Thank you, Honorable Blando. Okay, so the Honorable Nunez will have the last thing.
Your last thing. First of all, I'd like to congratulate a very young entrepreneur who could be a very good inspiration for our youth now to go to venture into entrepreneurship in spite of all the hassles and the problems that he had undergone. I was browsing through your book already, and I'm a bookworm. And I admire you not so much for the bibingka, but for the book. Because somebody once said, if you want to be remembered, you bear a son, or plant a tree, or write a book. And that's exactly what you did. And as being an entrepreneur, maybe it's true you can donate the book to some libraries, but you can also sell the book, market the book to colleges and universities, because it would be a very good reading material that is local, and the experiences are very realistic. So I would encourage you to go to the different universities and colleges in the city and add this as a reading material sa mga marketing students nila. Congratulations and more power to you and your wife, a very good inspiration for you.
Thank you, Honorable Nunez. You heard that very clearly, Sir Anas. Thank you very much. Honorable Lagari.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. To wind up, thank you, George. I hope to meet you one day soon. And Mr. President, I think it's now beginning to be obvious to everyone what my style is. That I'm trying to scout and scour for this kind of people who are, I think we can get something from, new insights, new ideas, their experiences. And that's what I intend to do. In fact, I have two more speakers lined up for the next how many weeks on the topic of trade and commerce, and then another set of speakers also to talk again about agriculture. So that's what I intend to do, and I hope that we are reaping some benefit from it. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. George Anas. Rest assured that the Sangguniang will remember you not only for the cassava cake that you gave us, but by your entrepreneurship and the books that you wrote. Congratulations, really, and you are an inspiration to every one of us here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So, Mr. Secretary? Let us move for the resumption.
For the resumption of the House rules.
Upon motion, the House rules are resumed.
So we now proceed with the question and answer hour.
We have three sets of invitees. One from the CSO, Dr. Oko.
Okay, sa question and answer hour na ni Megala, ato paminahon.
Here. Then the group
pagkama na ng Q&A, okay na ni, pwede na tayo boy ani. Kay Onya alas 11 ang laging handa with Martin, Secretary Martin andana.
Community Affairs Office of the Integrated Barangay Affairs Division.
Mr. President.
The Honorable Lagari is recognized.
If our invited speakers are not yet around, I'd just like to take this opportunity to invite for next week the Committee on Recovery Plan of the Mayor. I do not know who are the ones composing this committee.
It should be the disaster.
I think it's Engineer Patches, Mr. President.
Okay. So,
But I'm not sure.
take note of the request for invitation of the Honorable Lagari.
Mr. Chairman,
The Honorable Gakal,
I'm supposed to be the first in the list of the question and answer.
Okay. Yes, I am not sure if the invitee or guest is already around. So, Secretary?
I have it on email. I'll just read it first, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
go ahead, Honorable Gapa. Mr. President. Before that, Honorable Gapa, I recognize Honorable Demdam.
Just for the question and answer hour, we just like to ask for an update, Mr. President, regarding the status on the BCCF honorarium. No?
Uy.
Yan lang po.
I think that is the subject matter of the next.
Next. Okay, thank you.
The next speaker or actually the next
BCCF
invitee.
update ha. Oy,
Okay,
mga
Mr. President.
BCCF, pamina mo.
Concern regarding the honorarium of the
Okay po. Thank you.
We will take note of that. Mr. Chair, the Honorable Tendido is recognized.
Mr. Chair, in the event that wala pa yung mga invitees natin, can we just continue first for the order of business, then we will...
Okay.
As soon as the invitees are
Okay.
available, then we
I am
can go back
supposed to do that. You are
Thank you,
very
Mr. Chair.
quick to the draw. So, Mr. Secretary, Honorable Gamal, you have still something to say because if there is still no invitee as
Morning,
this time, then we
Kang,
can proceed perhaps to the other item.
Barangay
Go back to the question and
Captain.
answer.
Anyway,
Barangay Kagad
I'd
Pedro
like
Vargas.
again to make a
Ramil
request
Paquet.
that
Samuel
if
Gregorio Marilos.
Dr. Oko cannot appear before this council,
Okay.
that she should send representative next time because we have a very, very important amendment that is being proposed on the sub-testing. We want to know certain information.
Okay.
And anyway, in the invitation, we have the topic to be discussed. So,
Okay.
so
Anyway, she will be arriving because she gave a word to the presiding
she will
officer.
be
Yes,
arriving.
yes.
Okay, okay.
She may be late only because they're not anyway in the attitude of coming in like us punctually. So, Mr. Secretary, let's go ahead first with the other items so we can go back to the question and answer.
So we now proceed with the committee report. Number 1, joint committee hearing conducted
Committee
by the
report,
Committee
sir.
on City Land Use and
Greetings
Committee
sa
on Law.
kay committee report mo.
The Honorable Libang is recognized. By the way, your guests are still not
Buntag
here,
kang Ma'am
so we'll
Erlinda
just go back to the
Cabalis
question and
sa
answer.
Aksalan. Good morning, ma'am. Good morning. Kang Chairman Juliet Almanon. Good
Yes,
morning
the
po sa
Honorable
Philippines.
Libang.
Marilos Subang.
Okay, we can just finish the committee report.
approval of
Usab ang testada nila sa ilang mga agenda
If that's
kay
before,
wa ni abot
and,
wa pa ni
second,
abot ang ilang mga
committee
guests
report
sa
conducted
sangguniang
by the
panglungsod
Committee
no,
on
sa
City Land
50th
Use.
regular session.
Be approved, hearing no objection, said committee report is now adopted. What was?
Number 2 item, under committee report, committee hearing conducted with the Committee on Health.
The Honorable Nunez is recognized.
Your Honor, I move for the adoption of committee report number 2.
It has been moved, seconded that the committee report conducted by the Committee on Health be adopted, hearing no objection, said committee report is now adopted. Maybe we can
Committee
just
on Health.
continue, then there's only few of the agenda. So, Mr. Secretary.
Under calendar of business, no unfinished business under business of the day. Letter A are items for first reading.
Items number 1 up to and including number 5 are all proceedings to be referred to the appropriate committee.
Under letter C, urgent matters, number 1, declaring the annual budget for calendar year 2020 of Barangay Baluan.
The Honorable Gapat is recognized.
I move for the urgency of item number 1.
Remove and seconded that
Second.
item number 1 be declared urgent. Hearing no objection, said item is declared urgent.
Balikon ha, SP sangguniang panglungsod 50th regular session karon sa ato sangguniang panglungsod residensya. Mo ni inyong ginatanaw na ato madunggan ug ato makita sa ato ang RPN Double DX sa Jensen Facebook Live.
Remove and seconded
Actual ni
item number
actual
2
time ni
urgent
nga regular session sa sangguniang panglungsod. Presided by
The main motion, I now move for
Attorney
its approval.
Ton Atsaron, ang atong Vice Mayor.
Remove and seconded that item number 2 be approved, hearing no objection, said item is now approved.
Number 3, declaring the annual budget for calendar year 2020 of Barangay Tanjangas East.
The Honorable Gapel is recognized.
Good morning,
I
Kang
move
Ma'am
for the
Darlina
emergency.
Malik. Good
Second.
morning.
Move
And
and
safe.
duly seconded that
Morning,
item number
RPN
3 be
Jensen.
I so declared
Thank you,
urgent.
ma'am.
There is no objection. Said item is declared urgent.
I move for its approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that this proposed resolution be approved. There is no objection. Said resolution is now approved.
Number 4, strongly supporting the celebration of this year's Consumer Welfare Month.
The Honorable Charo.
Alas 10:09 sa
recognized.
punta.
I move for the urgency of this item number 4, and the urgent.
It
Second.
has been moved and seconded that this item be declared urgent. There is no objection. Said item is declared urgent. On the main motion,
Mr. President, I move for the approval of this main motion under.
it
Second.
has been moved and seconded that this item be approved. Hearing no objection, said item is now approved.
Next item, the 32nd reading. Number 1, ordinance prohibiting open defecation in the city of Jansan.
The Honorable Nunez is recognized.
I move for the approval of item number 2, second reading.
Ay ordinance.
It has been moved and
Nagipasar may
seconded
gala,
that
bawal
this
ang
item
open
on second
defecation.
reading be approved. But
kanang taka
before its approval,
labay gugaw ba?
any discussion?
Si Kagawad Rosalita
Amendment?
Nunez may author. Oh.
None.
Second
No
reading,
amendment?
period of discussion eh.
Hearing none,
Ha? None on ya
there is amendment
period of
from
discussion.
Councilor Bandido.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I would include all the amendments. I move that all the amendments made during the committee hearing be adopted, and subject to style.
Given the proposed amendment, which is
Morning,
duly
Day, Kang
seconded
Anisita
during
Mansing.
objection, the proposed amendment
Morning, ma'am.
is carried. No more?
No more.
Oh. So, restating the motion for approval of item number 1 on second reading, which is duly seconded during objection, said motion or said ordinance is now approved on second reading as amended, subject to style.
Next item, under second reading, ordinance requiring all proprietors, operators, or administrators of subdivisions.
The Honorable Nunez is again recognized.
Your Honor, I move for the approval of item number 2, subject to amendments made during the committee hearing, and I move that all the amendments made be integrated into the main ordinance, subject to style.
Okay, let's do it one by one. There is a motion
Second.
to approve this item on second reading, which is duly seconded, but before its approval, there is amendment proposed by the author, which as restated, and hearing no objection, the amendment is carried. Another amendment, the Honorable Imam?
Discussion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we will have to go for the reconsideration on the approval of the amendment first before we will hear the discussion. So, anyone move for the consideration of the amendment approval?
Mr. Chair, I
Yes,
move for-
the Honorable Yumang.
I move for reconsideration for the approval of the amendment so that we could have still a time for discussion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the approval of the amendment be considered during objection. The motion is carried, so we will hear the discussion of the Honorable Yumang. You are recognized.
Mr. Chair, may we ask the author, Mr. Chair, the approximate area or for the adequate parking space?
The Honorable Nunez.
There is an official standard number of square meters per vehicle. So it is the office of the building official who will determine the area. For
The
each
Honorable
of the
Yumang, yes, continue please.
It's precisely, Mr. Chair, because I know that there is an existing ordinance regarding the setbacks for parking space. If there is an intention to
to repeal that ordinance, may we ask now, there should be a specific areas or specific meets and bounds of the areas specifically for the parking space, Your Honor. Katulad po, may example, magpatayo tayo ng second 2 stories, meron talagang setback lang for parking space na sa ordinance na yan. Sa ordinance na sinusunod ng UBO. If this ordinance will repeal that particular ordinance, there should be a specific area for the parking space as computed.
The Honorable
Mr.
President, answer.
Honorable Junior,
Actually, we are not repealing anything here. In fact, we're adopting whatever is legal, whether national law or other ordinances.
The Honorable Laganin first.
Just to answer the query of Councilor Yuman, so what is the number of square meters required for every development, Mr. President? And I was actually one of the members of the Sanggunian who attended the committee hearing, Mr. President, and the city planning officer through his representative was also present. And according to her, I'm talking of Engineer Badet Francisco, in our zoning ordinance, it says there that for development which is less than 100 square meters, there should be a space for 1 unit of vehicle. And so there's a schedule of square meters, Mr. President, depending on how big the area is.
The 100 square meters is the building.
No, the land area, Mr.
Land
President.
area.
For example, if it's a residential, if it's just 90 square meters, so there should be 1 unit for a car that should be allotted. And as to the square meters, it was not mentioned, but it's in our zoning ordinance which we passed last year, 2019, Mr. President. Now, I think I was made one of the authors of this item, and the reason why I like the idea that from time to time there's a measure that we approve, there's an ordinance that we approve every so often, Mr. President, which highlights this parking, which I think is beginning to be an urban problem, such as General Santos City, which is a highly urbanized city. And I rue the day when parang mandaluyong na rin tayo, Mr. President, and I'm beginning to see the effects of the rapid urbanization now, especially even in small or the bigger subdivisions like Las Villas, the General Santos. Parang nakahilera na yung mga kotse nila, Mr. President, along the sidewalk. And it's eating up our space, and it's restricting the mobility of people. And it's even sacrificing the space intended for pedestrians. So, I hope measures like this will highlight yung parking problem natin. Now, it's not unbeknownst to many that we've already passed in 2018 the Transportation Code. It also tackles this same problem, Mr. President. And specifically on the parking area, what I learned, Mr. President, is that dapat merong traffic impact assessment document na ina-approve yung city planning even before they issue the locational clearance. And so I brought this up with Engineer Badet during the committee hearing, and now at least I know that she knows that we know of what we're talking about here. The problem is that yung traffic impact assessment is supposed to for example, I'm the applicant for a new development in a particular area, lalo na eskwelahan, o di kaya even a church or any big establishment, but even for subdivisions, Mr. President. One of the requirements should be the traffic impact assessment, or TIA. So how will my development affect the traffic within and even outside the development? The problem is that what I learned during the committee hearing, Mr. President, is yung TIA is only required for new development. But what about the existing development, especially the schools that have been around for so long already, like Ramon Magsaysay, Holy Trinity? So that is where the vacuum lies, Mr. President, because we do not have a measure for it yet. That's what I learned during the committee hearing from the city planning.
Okay.
And I hope to fill in that vacuum, Mr. President.
Does it answer your query, the Honorable Limang? Because that came from the question of the Honorable the Limang. answer of Honorable Nunez. However, I would just like to give some views on this matter regarding the property there in front of our SP building sa kanto, sa tabi ng Our Lady of Peace and Good Voyage, tapos sa harapan ng Perfecto nga yan, Perfecto.
Yung church,
Yan ang problematic kasi yung may-ari niyan, meron ng plano na mag-develop sana. Unfortunately, because of the existing ordinance of the city government regarding setbacking, ubos ang property niya, 25 square meter na lang matitira. Kaya nga, actually, they are all our friends.
Mr. Dison? Is that Mr. Dison?
Sanidad.
Oh.
Ako friend
The Vice. Yung kanto na yan hanggang doon. Kaya nga, nagiging dilapidated na yung building dyan. So, nevertheless, whoever would be the person is, we will stand with our ordinance because this will benefit the whole Jensen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
The author first, the Honorable Dunian. Then we'll go to the Honorable Tindito.
The query whether the old buildings here are very wide because we concentrated more on those buildings which will be constructed after this ordinance. But we made there is a portion, a part of the ordinance which states that those old buildings are given 5 years for them to comply with the required ordinance. But maybe the city can come up with other measures like coming up with parking spaces which are public parking spaces for a fee. Now, Holy Trinity, for example, was around that thinking of coming up with a vertical parking space, a building parang sa Green Hills, where the parking will be by level, just like of course sa SM and the rest, no? But we do feel that this is really very necessary now, especially along the subdivisions where they are already on the curve. Yeah, hindi ka na makadaan, especially kung nag-double parking. So, maybe another measure in the future really will be parking spaces for a fee in public areas. And that would be a separate ordinance. This would also do away with, you notice that along the parking space, especially among mga professionals, like there are signages that says reserved for doctor, etc., etc. That cannot be because that area is actually a public area. Nobody can claim that reservation, that area is reserved for a specific person unless that specific person will have a lease from the city, and that would be an income-generating ordinance in the future.
And follow up,
Mr. Chair. Follow up.
Sa public parking area, dili angay butangan lagi.
If this ordinance will be approved, may we know the implication regarding the subdivision owners or the ordinances or the resolution that we have passed. What will be now the impact of this ordinance to those subdivision owners who got our concurrence? Will they comply the adequate? Will they comply the appropriate adequate parking space for the subdivision?
Honorable Anony.
The new ones, especially after this ordinance, really have to comply. And otherwise, in the old ordinance, they are required to come up with an open space. An open space where the people inside that subdivision can park their cars or their vehicles. This is the big problem, especially towards Mabuhay area, Mabuhay and San Isidro, no? Where the different subdivisions are proliferating. And so the effect of this is after the approval of the ordinance, but as I said earlier, the requirement for an open space is already a part of the old ordinance. So, sa zoning ordinance natin.
Mr. Chair,
Okay, follow up.
in our zoning ordinance, if it is a 100 square meters, there is a equivalent area for one car for every 100 square meters in residential lot. Now here, we do require subdivision owners, not the residential owners. May we know from the author, is this ordinance require the subdivision developers to provide as parking space for the whole subdivision lot owners?
Honorable Damian.
That would be, I don't think it would be harmful if they can come up with a separate open space for parking apart from the required one car per 100 square meters. Kasi ang iba niya, tag-tatlo ang kutsi.
Okay, is that good enough? Honorable Limang, yes?
So this ordinance now will answer our predicament that developers should provide an adequate parking space. Because ang aking kinawari, Mr. Chair, is by the next regular session, marami tayong mga subdivision developers dito na dumadaan sa ano mo. So definitely, hanapan talaga natin ng parking space yung developer na yan. Ang tanong ko po, what is the rate of the area? Supposing 12 hectares, kung ang sa 12 hectares, 20 or 15% will be devoted to socialized housing. Then another area for tawag nito open space for
roads,
yung mga basketball
parks,
clubhouses, no?
Creation area.
Open space. May space yan siya for
common area.
Another space for ordinance ni Chandiliedo na sa child learning ata, playhouse, playground. Now here comes naman sa ating parking space. Kailangan definite tayo kung anong area per 10,000 square meters na subdivision. Ito ang dapat ma-devote para sa parking space ng mga residential owners in a particular 10,000 square meters. If it is 120,000 square meters, 12 hectares, ito dapat mga 3,000 square meters para sa parking space na i-devote. Ito parang 1,500 at ang playground sa ordinance ni Honorable Chandiliedo. Then another open space is provided by the national law.
Dapat na.
Ma'am,
dili kay mo parking lang na dias dapis dala ng uban
eh. Kailangan may rate talaga tayo, ma'am, na devoted para sa parking space kasi yung mga dating mga subdivisions talaga ngayon, lalong-lalo na yung yung mga developers na maliliit lang, bahay lang talaga na provide nila, wala nang ang open space.
Okay, we will allow Honorable Donya to answer the concern of the Honorable Limang.
I would really like to leave that to sa City Planning Office for them to determine what would be the area appropriate or enough for the kind of subdivision that will be developed.
Pwede na konsulta din sa City Planning.
But then I would not miss out also whether we can determine that i-amend na lang natin sa sunod kung if you want to include the specific area and we just don't leave it to the City Planning Office for them to determine kung ilan ang appropriate space for each developed area.
Are you satisfied with that?
Mr. Chair, may we ask if the good author will just put a provision there that the implementing rules will be provided by the executive.
Okay, Honorable Donya.
It's okay naman yan eh. The implementing rules, if they will.
Okay.
Honorable Limang. Mr. Chair, as long as we will not give that authority to the executive department, they cannot make any implementing rules to implement this best ordinance.
Is that addressed in the ordinance?
I don't understand this. What I understand is the ordinance is that we craft the implementing the IRR is actually supposedly to be done by the executive assistant of the mayor.
Okay, Chair.
Honorable Limang, last.
The implementing rules cannot implementing rules must conform to the ordinance. If the ordinance does not provide a specific rate of area for parking space, then that implementing rules is invalid. Kaya nga, bigyan natin ng authority para at least makadetermine sila.
Honorable Luden.
Your Honor, I'd rather give the authority to the city planning office so that they are the best people. Kung yan naman na point, no?
Technical.
Ang technical aspect, I'd like to give it to the city planning office. Maybe we can put an amendment here to determine the appropriate area for a specific developed area.
Mr. Chair.
The Honorable Tindito pa.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, may comment on the issue sa mga subdivision. Actually, if you will notice right now, yung bagong inaaprubahan natin ng mga subdivision, malalapad na yung mga roads. Now, from 6 meters before, ngayon 10 meters na yung secondary roads. So, as of the moment, that will form part of the parking space of every one vehicle for every But I agree with Councilor Nunez na yung IRR nito is the executive department should be the one to provide, no?
But it needs to be placed in the ordinance.
Yes, it can pwede din na hindi, Mr. Chair. Na wala. Pwedeng yung IRR is city planning na. Actually, Mr. Chair, my concern is I have nothing against with the ordinance since nasa building code naman lahat ito. May question lang nag-come up sa mind ko is paano itong mga place of worship natin? Because if we will strictly implement this ordinance, what will be the penalty for those establishment, the place of worship? Not so much with the hospitals, funeral parlors, supermarket, kasi negosyo lahat yan. What about the place of worship? I believe, pag talagang in-implement ito, maraming place of worship na masasara.
Honorable
What's the take of the author?
Actually, they were represented by, there was a pastor and a priest who were here, and they themselves are finding a difficulty on how to accommodate these different parts during Sunday masses especially. And again, to my mind, I would consider that city government should come up with an ordinance if these private buildings or institutions cannot provide an or parking space, public parking spaces can be used for a fee. That's being done in other countries.
Follow up, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Honorable Tindito.
In this case, like for example, the Catholic Church, every Sunday, we have this standing ordinance. Every Sunday, close yung harap ng OLPGB. Does it mean all place of worship can also apply for exemption every Sunday or every time na may worship sila?
Nothing. I think that's why I don't know if the author of that ordinance, but then I would consider that this was done for the convenience of the people, because that place really is too crowded, and there will be a very heavy traffic, and it will be a danger area if they should not be closed. I think that's the rationale why there was this ordinance. But not necessarily on other places of worship, because per our observation, hindi naman ganyan karaming tao.
Well, actually, I was informed bago lang. Based on, we will take a look at the ordinance kasi according to our Attorney Roque here, lahat daw pala ng place of worship, they can apply.
Yeah,
they can apply. So there's no problem with that, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. And
the Honorable Acharon first, then Honorable Katabena after.
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, my information, Mr. President, that earlier query of Honorable Yuman regarding the parking space on how many parking space how many parking space each building that we have. And also for those ordinance that we already made, if there is yung sabi niya na masagasaan ng mga ordinance na earlier. Anyway, Mr. President, this is just an information that all our ordinances is based on the building code of the Philippines.
Okay.
Because every space that we have a new building that will be approved by our city engineer's office. And also, if we will adopt this kind of ordinance also, later, we will apply the said information coming from Honorable Lagari, the TIA, Traffic Impact Assessment, because that will be very important to each building. Para malaman natin kung ilang number of cars ang papasok
City
doon
Councilor
sa
Ojo Macharoni siya
building,
may
and how many cars also will coming from that building na makakos ng traffic doon sa harapan ng building. Like for example, dito sa SM natin, they provided the local government of TIA. But for those buildings here in Los Santos na maliliit lang, kasi yung TIA, mahal kasi yung studies ng TIA. So, yun lang, Mr. President, that walang masasasaan na earlier ordinances natin. Thank you.
The Honorable Stanford?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Actually, I like the ordinance, Mr. Chair, but to support this ordinance, Mr. Chair, I think the council should craft ordinance allowing the private company to establish a towing company, so that every driver who have violate this ordinance, the towing company will tow their car and they will
Private
pay
towing
for
company? Privately owned?
private owned, Mr. Chair, because of the government, I don't think that they can focus on that itong sitwasyon. And then nakikita naman natin, Mr. Chair, na talagang daming violator, especially when you go along Santiago Boulevard. All the hardwares there have no parking. And then may mga delivery pa sila ng mga truck ang lalaki, halos kalahati po ng road diyan sa Santiago, and also along Kalumpang area, wala na talagang diyan, wala nang parking area.
Especially along Sapi.
Yung Sapi hardware, Mr. Chair, malaking parking area. Okay. So I think it is the best. And also I think we should revisit the building code of General Santos City na yung lahat ng mga bagong yung sinabi ni Honorable Yumang na yung mga contractor and developer should provide a parking space within their yung area. Kasi Mr. Chair, yung ibang especially yung Agan South, doon sa may Notre Dame, dalawa po ang nila, yung entrance. Meron silang entrance dito along the river. Tapos ginawa pa lang nila ng parking space doon. So I think mayroon ng violation doon. And then some of them park along the street. Okay, yun lang po, Mr. Chair. I think we should come up with a new ordinance.
You do not have anything against Mr. Agan?
Nothing.
Okay.
Just one, Mr. President.
The Honorable Casabella.
Okay. Mr. President, I'm not against this ordinance passed by Councilor Nunez. In fact, I favor this will congest traffic. Can this be applied only for those new developers? Because I believe yung mga na dati na, mahirapan na. The building is already existing there. Like for example, Our Lady of Peace and Good Voyage. Other buildings including Seaton Hotel and other establishments in the present. Existing na yan sila. So, there's no way to do that. Probably yung nabago na
You
apply.
are referring to the church.
Yeah. Mr. President, siguro sa baguha, bago mag-apply ng mga developers.
We will allow him to answer.
What I said earlier, that it has no
No retroactive effect.
no retroactive effect, no? But this will only apply to those buildings after the approval of the ordinance. But maybe we can, as I said earlier again, there are still other ordinances that are necessary. Like for example, I see in other countries that yung public parking spaces, may meter, no? Tawag yan? You get a ticket para mag-park ka, or otherwise, lalagyan mo ng Yeah, so that would be a big income to the city, and it would also decongest the city because people will not be parking just anywhere. But this one, for the meantime, I think this will suffice for what we need right now. Only that there is an amendment which you please add to another section.
Okay,
An
we
amendment,
can do the amendment later.
and
Okay.
that was the recommended amendment by my colleagues here.
Okay. The Honorable Lieutenant?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is speaking, Mr. President. Actually, we will approve this kind of ordinance, Mr. President, because it will be only implemented in the new building.
Okay, okay. That was it. The Honorable Yumang will have the last Just a word. clarification, Mr. Chair. Okay. Regarding temporary closures of the road in front of the churches, there is an ordinance to that effect. Second, this is not for the purposes of parking space, but for the security of churchgoers, Mr. Chair. 3 years ago, there was a bombing incident in Holo involving a Catholic church, Mr. Chair. That was a directive coming from the DILG that every churches should provide a security plan regarding the entry and exit of the churchgoers. Okay. Relative to the towing company, yung mga relative naman yung mga from 6 meters to 10 meters road wide sa mga new subdivisions, that 10 meters wide is only intended for traffic, not for parking space. Otherwise, the developer or the owner, residential owners, who parked their car in front of the residence violated our ordinance. Ordinance natin yung binukol yun. Now, as for the towing, as stated by Honorable REAKSYON, you forgot your statement. a private company that will tow any illegal parking, I think the private company should have a existing agreement with the national government. Thank you.
So anyway, all of these concerns can be put in place in the implementing rules, as you said. It can be drafted later. So we will pass this. Yes, Honorable Nunez, yes, go ahead.
Additional amendment to the appropriate area needed for a common parking space for subdivisions and other institutions shall be determined by the City Planning and Development Office.
Okay, given the proposed amendment, in a second, which is duly seconded, hearing objection, the proposed amendment is carried. The Honorable Gakan, you have an amendment? Further?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm interested with the subdivisions. It says that subdivisions are required to provide parking spaces. Will this apply to existing subdivisions or subdivisions to be allowed?
The Honorable Gagan can answer, I suppose.
Yes, I would like to answer that, Mr. President. Well, actually, this is the concern of Councilor Yumang and now Councilor Gakal. The provision for the parking spaces for subdivision is already incorporated in the National Building Code. So the National Building Code provides that 30% of the total land area of the subdivision should be devoted to public open spaces, including parking space, Mr. President. And how to determine the number of cars that can be parked at any one time is should be included in the TIA, the Traffic Impact Assessment. But I think, well, just want to reassure everybody here that when it comes to ordinances, when it comes to legislation, it's all there. We already passed it in all the ordinances that we have passed, including the transportation ordinance. It's just a matter of implementing it, Mr. President. It's complete without sa yung aking sariling bangko, but I have devoted 2 years of my life just for that. And it's really up to the executive to implement it, Mr. President. Now, at this point, I would like to, well, just give some thoughts, Mr. President, because it is as if that we are blaming private companies, private owners that it seems that there is no way to cure the problem of parking, especially for existing buildings, Mr. President. Well, in the course of my study, Mr. President, I realized that we have to choose as a society kung ano ba yung maganda na model. Should transportation be a public concern, meaning the government concern, or should it be a private sector concern, or should it be somewhere in the middle? If it is a private concern, Mr. President, I don't think that transportation will be solved. Like what we're seeing now, itong mga tricycles natin, numbering about 3 years ago, there's just about 45,000 of them. Now, siguro mga almost 100,000 tricycles na yan, Mr. President. And we know, if you're a true-blooded general, you would observe that almost anywhere in the city, Mr. President, nagigit-gitan yung mga tricycle drivers. And you will be surprised how come if you're a passenger, hindi ka kaagad nakakasakay ng tricycle, kahit na mga 10 beses ka na nagpara, hindi pa rin sila pumapara sa'yo. So, is there an oversupply of tricycles or is there a shortage of tricycles? Well, honestly, it's an oversupply of tricycles, Mr. President. It's just that the government did not provide proper infrastructure. So to me, the next question is, should the government provide for the proper infrastructure? I think it should. It is the government's concern. But as to its management, it should be a hybrid, Mr. President. I can talk about many things. I have many ideas about transportation, Mr. President. But I just want to answer the pressing, urgent concerns of my colleagues here. Now, on the topic of the subdivision, we already tackled that. I said that 30% of the public open spaces should be devoted to parking. And the PIA should take care of that. As to towing, Mr. President, I think that we also passed a resolution asking the city mayor to purchase 2 towing vehicles because as of now, we do not have even 1 towing vehicle in the city. And that's a problem because we are tolerating even these towed vehicles to not ipapacheck up nila yung kanilang vehicle because it's not really it's something that can be foreseen. The mechanical failure of a vehicle is something that can be foreseen. It is not unexpected, Mr. President. So there should be a penalty for stalled vehicles. And if the stalled vehicle cannot be removed within a number of minutes, in this ordinance is 30 minutes, then it should be towed for a fee by the city. But how can we tow the stalled vehicle if we do not have a towing vehicle? So, Mr. President, kung whoever is going to be the next mayor here, kung andito man sa loob ng kwarto na ito, maybe the vice mayor, once you become a mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, then, or somebody else is interested to become one, then I hope that this transportation, which I think is going to be a very, very big issue on 2022, Mr. President, so this is one measure that the next mayor could really look into immediately.
Thank you, the Honorable Gary, for that
follow-up.
solicited campaign.
Follow-up question, Mr. Chair.
The Honorable Kaka, just go ahead.
Under Section 6, I-10, I-11, it says parking on a non-designated parking area. Since subdivisions are required to have a common parking area, does it mean that it is an offense for the resident to park his car in front of his house on the street? So, penalize?
Honorable Nunez?
Yes.
Yes. So, the police can now be asked to go around all subdivisions and 100%, araw-araw, meron tayong pera.
Collection.
Well, may I say something, Mr. President? Honorable Nunez?
Yeah, because precisely that's the reason. Kasi di ka na makadaan. The roads are being used as parking space.
Yes, that's what's happening. So,
Honorable Gakan, we will allow Honorable Gary, who might
Okay.
have knowledge of the situation.
Yes, Mr. President. In fact, this particular issue, even at the national level, is being tackled, Mr. President. There's even a proposal now that you cannot purchase a vehicle, a private vehicle, if you do not have your own parking area, and the dealer of that vehicle should first inspect the house of the would-be owner, Mr. President. But as to our General Santos City Transportation Ordinance, Mr. President, and it's good that we are tackling this transportation. We already have that in the Transportation Ordinance. The thrust now of the city is to go parking for a fee. And we have started at the Central Business District, Barangay Dachanga South, East, West, and North. Especially Pioneer Avenue, Acharon Avenue, Magsaysay Avenue, Rosas, Manzanitas, wherein we expect in the ordinance, Mr. President, the barangay kapitan and the kagawad should come up with their transportation plan and determine kung anong mga streets which are also named in our transportation code that they will come up with a plan, Mr. President, and designate yellow boxes kung saan pwede na mag-parking lang, Mr. President, and there's somebody who will be enforcing City wherein you pay for a fee, especially during work days, and on Saturday, Sundays, it's a different range of fees, Mr. President. And I think if I were the Barangay Kapitan of the Jangas East, with an era of 13 million, I think they can double their era just because of this, Mr. President. But until now, nobody is responding, and I guess it's because the Public Safety Office is still to be activated fully, Mr. President. But I hope that, again, the next mayor will act on it on his first 100 days.
Okay, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
The Honorable Yumang
We will.
going to react.
This is in relation to the query of Honorable Jen regarding subdivision residential owners parking their cars in front of the residence. Mr. Chair, every subdivision developers before they could surrender, before the resident owner or before the subdivision developer has the obligation to turn over all roads within the subdivision area, including the open space, to the city government or to the barangay government, Your Honor, the barangay LGU. They have to donate that public open space of the roads. Then after that, Your Honor, the city government, the mayor may give the authority for the administration of the open space to the association, homeowners association. So by that alone, Mr. Chairperson, by the deed of donation,
magpadayon lang niya ang regular session, ang discussion sa regular session sa Sangguniang Palungsod, magpadayon rin i-transfer lang mo sa Pikas computer para makasulod na po ang laging handa tiyod ni Martin Andanar, no? Pero magpadayon ang atong live streaming pinagi sa Sangguniang Palungsod, magpadayon na there is sa RPN double DX page.
According to Attorney Yumang, it becomes an offense once the road becomes
pero inig-transfer na to, murag di na ta makita sa camera dito sa Pikas na dito sa Pikas computer na katong naka-focus diya sa Sangguniang Palungsod 15th regular session, no? Sangguniang Palungsod.
The Honorable Yumang.
Then this ordinance will provide for the violation. Because here in our ordinance, as stated a while ago, it is imposed to all subdivision developers. It is imposed upon the subdivisions that they have to provide parking space. Okay. However, if those developers have already donated the roads, including the open space, then that becomes a public property.
Okay, Honorable Gapa?
Yes. I think we should thoroughly study this particular provision, because in a subdivision which is 10 to 12 hectares and the common parking space is far away from your house, how can you expect a resident to park his car in the common area, common parking area? I think the people will howl on this particular ordinance, especially if we will start implementing it and they will be fined 5,000 pesos because the penalty is 5,000 and imprisonment of 6 months.
Okay, alas 10:54 na may gala sa buntag. Ina-work out ato diri may gala nga kuno. Magpadayon ni atong live streaming sa sangguniang panglungsod. Importante kayo ang ilang magisgutan karon. Parking space sa mga subdivision i-require base sa ordinansa o walay parking space nga klaro may gala. Pwedeng i-penalize ang mga tao sa subdivision.
But in the new zoning ordinance, the city planning office had very clearly stated that for every 100 meters na home lot, there should be a space for a garage, for a parking space inside the lot. So, kung 10 meters yun, 90 na lang talaga you can only use the 90 square meters. And ano naman kasi, they're not thinking about the socialized housing here. They're talking about the middle end housing because yung socialized housing na malilit ng lote, they cannot also afford to buy cars. So, about the common parking space, that will only be an add-on to the expenses of the development of the subdivision, which will be shared by the buyers of the lots within the subdivision.
Mr. Chair.
There is a query first from Honorable Gakal that's being answered. So
Yes, I have seen so many socialist housing subdivisions, and we can observe that cars are being parked in front of the houses.
Yan.
So I think there will be a big protest from the people once we will apprehend them because of their failure to park in the common area, parking area. So, ako naman, yun ang aking concern.
Mr. Chair,
the Honorable Donias is ready to answer that.
More important here is what is good for the public, the general public, than the individual.
Agent Timon,
So,
Ate Barbie, good
this
morning.
is still a government of laws, not of men. So we have to follow laws. If we want to have a city which is like a livable
Morning, Kang
city,
Eduardo
which
Leiso.
there is orderliness, and while we
Kang
can
Board
still
Member
do
Jess
it
Basconia, good
at
morning.
at this point in time, we have to do it. No?
And can
Kang
this be
Kagawad
placed in the
Edison
amendment?
Tulio sa Bula.
Whatever your concern.
Mr. Chair.
The Honorable
Joben
Pisalio.
Peña Redondo.
Mr. Chair, I would tend to agree with Councilor Zengakal, especially concerning
Rizalde Dalida
private
o Palimbang.
subdivision. And I've also
Stephen Tabura.
observed in other countries, especially highly urbanized cities,
Kagawad Odjo Katsaron.
both
sa Gunayang
public
Palansya.
or private na mga streets, sometimes, especially private subdivision, they allow parking in front of their residences
So, what do you
at
suggest?
certain
What do you suggest?
time of the day. Like for example, gabi, they're allowed to park there, and then 7 o'clock, kailangan malinis lahat ng daan. So, I think this provision should be looked into.
Okay, you pass this one. Honorable Yumang, it's already 11 o'clock.
Okay,
Our invited
10:57
are now
na.
here, so please. continue.
Balenta doon speakers computer karon ha dahil lang kayo ha.
Residents for their parking area. The government should always respond to the general welfare of the people. Regardless, once they are there as a residential owner, they must have a parking space within their area. Otherwise, if we will tolerate those residential owners who will park their car in front of the residence in the street, then this will congest traffic in the specific subdivision.
Okay.
This will affect the general public.
Okay. Honorable Daniels.
Yeah, I agree. Your Honor, I would like to one reminder to those who are putting up signages on public parking spaces na nakalagay reserved for doctor, etc. That's not allowed because that area is not titled in his name.
Under your
That's
ordinance?
for the use of everybody.
Okay.
So, that's very clear. Your Honor,
Okay, magsugod na ang laging handa may gala, i-transfer na namo ang ang live streaming nato sa Sangguniang Panglungsod. Salamat kayo sa inyong watch din ha sa FB Live. Transfer ko speakers computer.
Just been moved and seconded that this ordinance be approved on second reading. Hearing no objection.
Additional authors with due respect to
Kung wala namang importanteng lakad, manatili na lamang po sa loob ng bahay.
Basta't laging handa at sama-sama, kaya natin to. Kaya simulan na natin ang public briefing. #LagingHandaPH. As of 4 p.m. kahapon, September 28, 2020, ay nakapagtala ang Department of Health ng karagdagang 3,073 reported COVID-19 cases sa bansa na sa kabuuan po ay umabot na sa 307,288 na kaso. 49,242 sa bilang na yan ang nananatiling active cases. Nadagdagan naman ng 163 ang bilang ng recoveries o mga gumaling mula sa sakit na sa kabuuan ay umabot na sa 252,665 habang 37 naman po ang dumagdag sa mga nasawi na sa kabuuan ay nasa 5,381 na. Mapapansin sa ating illustration na muling umangat ang bilang ng COVID-19 cases na naitala kada araw. Kahapon ay muli itong pumalo sa 3,073, ang pinakamataas sa nakalipas na isang linggo. Ang Metro Manila pa rin ang nananatiling epicenter ng COVID-19 sa bansa na nakapagtala kahapon ng 1,158 cases. Sumunod pa rin ang Cavite na may 225 new cases, ang Laguna with 203 cases, samantalang ang Rizal ay nasa ika-4 na pwesto na may 173 cases at bumaba naman sa ika-5 pwesto ang Batangas na nakapagtala ng 169 na bagong kaso. Umangat naman sa 16% na confirmed cases ang active cases na may kabuang bilang na 49,242. Mas mataas ito ng bahagya sa 15.2% na ating nai-report kahapon.
Sa mga aktibong kaso naman, 3.4% dito ay nasa critical na kondisyon, 1.5% ang severe, 8.7% ang asymptomatic o hindi kinakitaan ng sintomas. Samantalang ang malaking bahagdan o 86.4% ay mild cases lamang. Muli po naming paalala, maging bida solusyon sa laban kontra COVID-19. Magagawa po natin ito sa pamamagitan ng pagsusuot ng face mask dahil napipigilan ito ang pagkalat ng droplets mula sa ating bibig at ilong. Nababawasan din ito ng 67% ang tsansa na tayo'y makahawa o di kay mahawa ng sakit. Pagpapakita rin ito ng respeto at kortesiya sa mga taong ating nakakasalamuha. Muli, maging bida solusyon sa COVID-19. At para po sa inyong mga katanungan at concerns tungkol sa COVID-19, maaari niyo pong i-dial ang mga numerong 02894-COVID o kaya 02894-26843. Para naman sa mga PLDT Smart, Sun at TNT subscribers, i-dial ang numerong 1555. Patuloy rin kayong makibalita sa mga pinagkakatiwalaang sources ng impormasyon tungkol sa COVID-19. Maaari po ninyong bisitahin ang covid19.gov.ph.
At para naman sa ating mga balita sa pakikipagtulungan sa Department of Social Welfare and Development at Department of Trade and Industry nitong September 24 hanggang 25 ay nagpahatid ng tulong si Senator Go sa mga recovered COVID-19 patients sa Samar National High School at Catbalogan Central Elementary School. Namahagi rin sila ng libreng pagkain na face mask sa tinatayang nasa 226 na benepisyaryo. Mayroon din sa kanila ang nakatanggap ng bisikleta na magagamit nila sa kanilang pang-araw-araw na biyahe. Sa ilalim naman ng Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situation Program ng DSWD, nabigyan ang ating mga kababayan doon ng cash assistance. Samantala, pinagkalooban naman sila ng livelihood starter kit sa pamamagitan ng pangkabuhayan sa pagbangon at ginhawa program ng DTI. Sa isang video call ay muling Pinanawagan ng senador sa publiko ang pagsunod at kooperasyon sa mga patakaran na ipinatutupad ng pamahalaan gaya ng madalas sa paghuhugas ng kamay, pagsusuot ng face mask at face shield sa mga pampublikong lugar at pananatili ng physical distancing upang mapangalagaan ang ating mga sarili sa panganib na dulot ng COVID-19. Para naman sa kababayan natin na nangangailangan ng tulong ay ipinahayag din ni Senator Go na may malasakit center na matatagpuan sa Samar Provincial Hospital na maaari nilang dulugan ng kanilang suliranin. Samantala, nagbahagi rin ng tulong ang grupo ni Senator Bongo sa 26 na pamilyang naapektuhan ng sunog sa Dumaguete City sa Negros Oriental noong nakaraang Biyernes. Bukod sa food packs, face masks, vitamins, cash assistance mula sa DSWD at livelihood starter kits mula sa DTI ay nagbahagi rin ng ayuda ang National Housing Authority sa ilalim ng kanilang Emergency Housing Assistance Program kung saan sa pamagitan nito ay maaaring makabili ang ating mga kababayan na sunugan ng mga materyales para maipantayo ng kanilang bagong tahanan. Ipinangako naman ni Senator Bongo na gagawin niya ang lahat ng kanyang makakaya upang maserbisuhan ang lahat.
Matapos pong mag-viral naman sa social media ang ilang learning modules na naglalaman ng proactive at malisyosong material, agad na tinawagan ng pansin ni Senator Bongo ang ilang education authorities para dito. Ayon kay Senator Go, dapat tiyakin nasa kalidad at maayos ang pagkakagawa ng mga learning modules na ginagamit ng mga estudyante, lalo na't ngayon ay limitado ang oportunidad ng mga guro na gabayan ang kanilang mga mag-aaral. Naman sa kagawaran ng edukasyon, hindi raw galing sa kanila ang nag-viral na learning material kundi galing sa isang private Catholic school sa Zambales. Agad namang humingi ng dispensa ang pamunuan nito at sinigurong binawi na ang mga learning modules at kasalukuyan ng binabago. Ito yung alinsunod nito, hinikait din ng senador ang kagawaran ng edukasyon na gawing mas accessible at inclusive ang kanilang mga education program para sa mga estudyanteng walang access sa internet. Inamo naman ni Senador Bongo ang mga telecommunication at internet providers na ayusin ang kanilang serbisyo sa taong bayan upang mas makatulong rin sa bansa ngayong may pandemya. Halos lahat nga raw kasi ng transaksyon ngayong new normal ay ginagawa na through online at kinakailangan ito ng malakas at mabilis na internet connection. Inihain din ng Senador ang Senate Bill No. 1803 o E-Health System and Services Act na makatutulong sa Philippine Healthcare System. Bukod pa rito, inihain din ni Senator Bongo ang Senate Bill No. 1738 o ang E-Governance Act of 2020 na naglalayong magbigay ng efficient, responsive at cost-effective use of information and communication technologies upang maiwasan ang face-to-face transactions, red tape at pataasin ang service standards sa pagitan ng taong bayan at ng pamahalaan. Kasama natin magbabalita mamaya sina Ria Arevalo mula sa Philippine Broadcasting Services, Breves Bulsao mula sa PTV Cordillera, John Arua mula sa PTV Cebu, at Jay Lagang mula sa PTV Davao.
Samantala, makakapanayam naman natin sina Dr. Butch Ong ng Octa Research Group, Iloilo City Mayor Jerry Treñas at Narvacan, Ilocos Sur Mayor Luis Chavit Singson.
Kung may mga nais po kayong linawin sa ating mga resource person, i-comment nyo lang po yan sa ating live stream at sisikapin nating may paabot sa kanila ang inyong mga katanungan.
Para po sa ating unang panayam ngayong umaga, makakasama natin ang ilan sa mga eksperto pagdating sa pananaliksik ng mga datos at impormasyon na may kaugnayan po sa COVID-19. Nang sa gayon po matukoy at hindi lamang ng ating pamahalaan kundi pati ng pribadong sektor ang tamang pagharap po sa krisis na ito. Welcome po sa aming programa, sa ating programa, Dr. Butch ng Octa Research Group. Good morning po, Doctor.
Good morning at good morning sa ating mga nanonood at tagapakinig. Ako yung nagagalak na inimbitahan niyo ako for today's updates.
Sa inyo pong inilabas na report report noong September 6 ay ipinakita ninyo na nagsimula na pong mag-flatten ang COVID-19 curve, partikular po sa Metro Manila. Samantala, batay po sa inyong pinakahuling ulat nitong Sabado ay nagkaroon po ng downtrend sa kaso ng COVID-19 sa bansa with 0.82 reproduction number po mula September 16 to 23 at transmission number na nasa 0.74 as of September 23. Ano-ano na po ang mga naging factors natin para ma-determine po o maibahagi sa publiko ang ganitong projection?
Kung naaalala nyo, nung bandang umpisa ng Agosto, nagkaroon tayo ng mungkahi galing sa ating mga healthcare workers for a time out, no? At ito ay napagbigyan ng IATF at nagkaroon tayo ng 2 linggong time out. At ang nangyari dito ay mula nung nag-time out tayo, nagkaroon tayo ng MECQ, no? Steadily bumababa ng ating number of new cases. Before the time out, we had almost 4,500 to 5,000 new cases per day. And then we instituted the MECQ, and right after that, we began seeing a downtrend sa ating mga bagong daily new cases. No? Bagamat ngayon nagkaroon tayo ng slight increase ng ating daily new case, pumalo tayo ulit sa 3,000, no? As reported lately, we are still holding the reproduction number below 1. Ito po ay magandang balita, no? Kasi ang reproduction number, ito ay ibig sabihin na ito yung ating transmissibility number, meaning reproduction number of more than 1. Ang ibig sabihin yan ay actively transmitted ang virus in the communities. And then our value or reproduction number below 1, it means that it is now being controlled, no? Hindi na masyadong kumakalat sa komunidad. Currently, ang reproduction number ng Pilipinas ay nasa 0.80 to 0.85. Ito ay magandang senyales na ang ating yung infection natin sa komunidad ay bumababa na steadily, no? And sa NCR naman, tama kayo na sa pagsasabi na ito ay ang epicenter ng COVID-19 sa Pilipinas. Sa NCR naman ay gumaganda na rin ang ating reproduction number, no? Nasa 70s. I think 0.77 ang reproduction number ng NCR, no? So ang downtrend na ito ay ating sana, no? Masustain natin ang downtrend, no? Even if nakikita natin na medyo may konting fluctuations up and down on sa ating daily reported new cases, we should maintain our minimal health standards, wearing of masks, for example, social distancing, wearing of face shields when we go outside, no? And staying home if there's no necessary reason to go out, no? All these standards, minimal health standards, have contributed to the decrease in the reproduction number. In fact, there's another medyo magandang balita na rin, ang positivity rate din ng NCR. That's how many positives are found for every 100 tested, no? Is at 9%, no? Ang una naming target is 10% for NCR, bumaba na to 9%. Yung WHO, ang target niya talaga for positivity is 5%. So papunta na rin tayo doon, no? Nagkaroon tayo ng positivity rate of as high as 14%, now it's down to 9%, no? So kung meron man panahon kung kailan tayo magkaroon ng mas strict na disiplina, mas strict tayo na sa sarili natin. Now is a time, no? Ngayon na pababa na. Huwag na natin hayaan ang ating gains, ang ating benefits for the last month and a half. Ever since we began the MECQ, no, we should still maintain the minimal health standard, no? The downtrend is encouraging, but the message here is it can actually surge at any time. So ang ating stopgap dyan, ang ating pinaka dahilan to control it is our discipline. In fact, I believe that everyone knows what to do, no? Hindi naman nagkurang talaga sa pag-uulat o pag-communicate kung ano talagang dapat gawin. And I think everyone knows what to do. And ang ating disiplina sa pagsunod nito, perhaps we will see a further downtrend to 5% for the positivity rate and further down to 0.5 our reproduction number, no? And perhaps at that time we will see a further easing of the quarantine restrictions, no? And as you know, the president has announced the restrictions lately, and this is to sustain the gains that we have had in August, in September. No, it will sustain it, the downtrend, until October.
Opo. Doc, yan nga po yung susunod kong tanong sa inyo dahil dyan nga para masustain po yung positive trend na ito ng pamahalaan, pinaalalahanan nyo po yung ating gobyerno na panatilihin po yung sa ilalim ng General Community Quarantine. As you said nga po, sinabi na ni Pangulong Duterte, kasama po yung National Capital Region na ito po yung tinatalang napakarami po ng mga naitatalang kaso ng COVID-19. So sa palagay po ninyo, hanggang kailan po nararapat na manatili under this classification ang National Capital Region? Bakit po?
Alright, ang obserbasyon po namin sa research group namin ay every 2 weeks nakikita namin yung epekto ng quarantine restriction. No? So ibig sabihin nung humingi yung mga doktor ng time out nung umpisa ng Agosto, no? 2 weeks later nakita yung gains nila. So nag-time out tayo for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks later pagpasok ng Setyembre, nakita natin na bumaba na ang number of new cases at bumaba na ang ating production number and positivity rate, no? So the recommendation still follows the 2-week period of observation and monitoring. So kapag in-announce o in-anunsyo na maintain ang general community quarantine, no, at the very least 2 linggo ang ating observation noon, no, and at the end of 2 weeks sa medyo bandang first 2 weeks of October or first week of October, kung nakita natin na bumaba na further to 5% ang positivity rate, and further down to 0.5 or even less ang ating reproduction number or yung R value, no, perhaps we can ease the restriction, no. But for now, no, we cannot say, as I've said a while ago, at any time there could be a slight increase or uptrend, no. So nakita na natin in our report today na pumalo na uli sa 3,000 per day ang ating new cases, na ibaba na natin sa 2,000 plus, no. So let us try this week and next week, let's try to maintain the positivity rate or even lower the positivity rate, maintain the R value, no? So 2 weeks ang recommendation ko sa maintain ng ating current quarantine restriction. After 2 weeks, mag-decide ulit, no? Depending on the trending that we will see the next 2 weeks.
Opo, Doc, what do you mean daw po nung sinabi ninyo yung possible trend na po ay irreversible? Aside po sa mahigpit na quarantine measures na ipinatutupad, ano-ano pa po ba yung significant efforts na maaaring gawin para tuluyang mapababa talaga yung kaso ng COVID-19 sa buong bansa?
As we know, no, yung mga natetest na positive in the community, ginagawa nila ng contact tracing, no. Ang mungkahi ko, ako ay isang doktor, no. Ang mungkahi ko sa ating mga kababayan ay kapag merong dumaan sa inyo at nag-contact trace, no, mag-cooperate po tayo, no. Tell the honest truth about what you're feeling and where you have been and who you have been in contact with, lalo na kapag may biyahe kayo sa isang hotspot area, no. So ang aking mungkahi dito ay yung ating contact tracing. Dapat ma-maintain natin or even add our contact tracers, no. Add the efficiency of our testing, our RT-PCR and other testing facilities, no. So with these factors, no, we will be able to see a greater picture. We will be able to see a better trending, no, in our projections, no. Pero ang nangyayari naman ngayon ay gumaganda naman talaga ang ating reporting, no, and gumaganda na yung ating trending. So i-maintain lang natin what we have now, no. Our hospital capacity has improved. Meaning to say, yung ating hospital ay hindi na ganoon kapuno, no? Although the hospital capacity is set at 70% utilization. So 70% of beds is the red marking, no? So it's a danger zone na pa nag 70% yung utilization. No? Bumaba na to 60, 50 to 60. So gumaganda na, no? So even our hospitals are already feeling the gains of the improvement. No, our communities are feeling the gains of the decreased number of new cases and decrease in the positivity rate. No, all we have to do is sustain it. It's just to maintain it. No, we should not do anything drastic. No, we should not suddenly open economy wide. No, we still have a few more weeks to go of improve or increased discipline sa sarili. No. I'd like to note also that one of the things na nakikita namin sa communities is yung mga trends in exchange of money. No, doon talaga dumadami din yung number of cases. So going cashless, no, ginagawa na ngayon niya sa economy, no, going cashless, and kapag kumuha kayo, bayad kayo at kumuha ng barya, always wash your hands. That's one way we can curb the transmission in the communities.
Opo, Doc, may mga gusto pong itanong ating mga samahan sa media. Si Evelyn Corres po ng Filipino Mirror, ito po yung question niya. 3 weeks ago, Dr. Guido David of the UP Octa team stated that the curve of COVID-19 infection has already flattened. Given the figures at present na more than 300,000 and rising, would you say that his statement is still true?
When you talk about flattening the curve, we are going. We actually mean flattening it against the hospital capacity. No, ibig sabihin we have to flatten or lower the number of new cases and lower the number of infected individuals in the community, so that our health capacities can, or our healthcare workers, our hospitals, our wards, our ICU can take care of those who are sick. No? So now that we see that the hospital utilization is going down already, no? So ang ating curve ay naka-flatten in a way, naka-flatten, no? Pero ang mensahe talaga namin is this: yes, it is maintained at the flattened rate that Dr. Guido has mentioned, but it can still increase at any time. No, the only way we can control it is by maintaining the R value. No, the reproduction value. It's now at 0.77. If we can maintain it to 0.5 and lower, that will surely bring the curve down to a very, very controllable state. No? The positivity rate from 9% to 5 and below, that will further flatten the curve to the ideal level, such that perhaps at that time we can now begin to open economy some more. We can begin to release the quarantine restrictions further. No, so we are going down the number of cases, no, the positivity and the R value, no. So the curve is already beginning to flatten, no. It is not flattened yet to the ideal. Again, the WHO says the positivity rate should be 5% or lower, no. So we are flattening it already, but still not within the ideal rate to release the restrictions.
Opo. Question naman po from Jillian Cortez ng Business World. Ito po tanong niya, is it possible that the Philippines will remain under lockdown until the end of the year or even next year with the rate of cases now as its Asian neighbors already reopened totally their economies? The Philippines has been on lockdown for over half a year already.
Okay, I'd like to redefine lockdown. When we say lockdown, everything is locked down to the home. No? Everything, economy is almost put at a halt, and we had that during ECQ, no? At the earlier part of the year. No? Now it is now economy is opening up a little bit. We are no longer on the strict lockdown that we were talking about. Now we have to shift our definitions. No? What is a lockdown? For me, that's when we had ECQ, when we had a strict ECQ. Now we're into GCQ, which is a more relaxed more relaxed restriction, no? So to answer the question, until when ba talaga ang ating expectations ito, no? Again, no? We should look with a let's say a microscopic or everything in a microscope, no? So every 2 weeks dapat ang ating pagtingin, no? So when we had our projections 2 weeks ago, nakita natin na bumababa na. Now we're saying to maintain the general community quarantine. We look at the next 2 weeks kung bumababa na. Everything points toward improvement. But we have to look at it every 2 weeks, no? We cannot make a general statement na by Christmas wala na lahat, by December okay na, normal na. And even if it's normal, even if we're COVID-free on December, a new normal must happen, no? People should be more careful. People should wash their hands, keep disinfecting surfaces, no? So that's the new normal, no? So we should look at the situation every 2 weeks. Look at the trend every week and every 2 weeks, no? Everything is looking at a very positive outlook, no, for the next 2 months, no? But again, baka mamaya mag-increase. I'd like to cite an example of other countries. Let's say New Zealand, though they had a COVID-free pronouncement about several weeks ago, to a month or 2 ago, COVID-free sila. Bigla nagkaroon after 100 days of being COVID-free. So ayaw natin ng ganon, no? So we are learning from the lessons from other countries, no? To take it step by step by step. Take it weekly, every 2 weeks, every month. No, I cannot make a general statement that by November 5% na ang positivity rate, no? In dealing with the science of the pandemic, we should be careful. We should look at the trend. We should look at what is happening now and learn from the past, and of course learn from other countries. So the answer there is we look every 2 weeks.
Opo. Yung second question po ni Jillian Cortez ng Business World, DTI Secretary Lopez said more industries can operate at 100% capacity. Is this safe to do so considering this will be more people in commute and in public areas? Will we see more cases this way?
We should still follow the minimal health standards, which includes social distancing. If the facility can guarantee, number one, that everyone inside there will have effective social distancing. Number two, proper ventilation. You know, the occupational medicine and safety community, no, they have already determined that proper ventilation in the workplace is essential to curb the transmission in the workplace, no? So if we have a 100% back to normal situation in our industry, in commerce, no? If the minimal health standards cannot be guaranteed, then we should not be at 100%. No? We should do it slowly, no? Actually, tama din naman ginagawa, no? Initially 30% lang, then 50%, then 70%, no? And we should always look at the science. We should always look at the trend, no? Only then can we safely and confidently say that pwede nang i-release ang restriction, pwede nang back to 100%, no? So right now, this is my personal opinion, that going 100% in industries which have a lot of people working closely together with interaction every day with each other is not recommended right now, no? Still follow the rules of GCQ, still follow the social distancing, masks and washing of hands, no, in the workplace.
Okay. Maraming salamat po sa inyong panahon, Dr. Butch Ong mula po sa Octa Research Group.
Maraming salamat po.
Right, bukod po sa Kalakhang, Maynila, kabilang ang lungsod ng Iloilo na isa inilalib na sa General Community Quarantine ng ating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte simula October 1. At upang bigyan tayo ng update sa mga ginagawang hakbang ng lokal na pamahalaan nito upang masugpo ang naturang sakit, Baka panayam natin ang ama ng Iloilo City, walang iba kundi si Mayor Jerry Treñas. Mayong aga, Mayor Treñas.
Mayong aga. Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate that you are giving us time during this program.
Opo, Mayor Treñas, this is Aljo Bendijo. Kasama din natin si Yusek Rocky Ignacio. Opo.
Aljo at saka Yusek Rafi.
Rocky po, Rocky
Mayong
Ignacio.
aga.
Opo. Okay, mula po sa MECQ nito nagdaang 2 linggo, Mayor, ay ilalagay na nga under GCQ ang Iloilo City effective October 1 hanggang October 31. Ano po ang ginawa ninyong mga hakbang upang mapababang kaso sa inyong nasasakupan in a span of 2 weeks? Nagsagawa po ba kayo ng localized lockdowns dyan?
We had several lockdowns. Sinubukan namin ang surgical, sinubukan rin namin ang total lockdown. We had a meeting this morning at 9 o'clock together with the COVID team. And we decided that all the barangays with 3 or more cases, we will place on surgical lockdown. And we will provide assistance. And fortunately, we already have the presence of the PNP and the city director of the DILG. And we are at the moment meeting with our barangay captains who will be the captains of the barangays which will be placed on surgical lockdown starting today.
Opo. Puntahan natin, Mayor Jerry, Mayor Treñas, ang tanong ng ating mga kasama sa media from Yusek Rocky. Go ahead po.
Opo. Mayor, may tanong po yung kasama natin na si Evelyn Quiros po ng Filipino Mirror. Ito po yung tanong niya sa inyo. The tweet made by Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. stating that you blamed your constituents for the increase of COVID cases in Iloilo has already been deleted. Has Secretary Locsin apologized or reached out to you?
Well, he has not apologized. He has not reached out. Just the same, now we understand how he treats us Ilonggos, and we know how we will handle him.
Opo, Mayor, dahil sa matinding epekto ng COVID-19 pandemic, ay di lang po dyan sa Iloilo, kundi sa buong mundo na. Ano po ang efforts na ginagawa ng local government unit dyan pagdating sa reopening, unti-unting pagbubukas ng ekonomiya dyan po sa lungsod ng Iloilo?
Alam mo, Aljo?
Opo.
I have been meeting with businessmen. Here in Iloilo, as I have explained to Secretary Locsin, we know that governance is a shared responsibility between the governors and the governed. And everything we do, we consult the business sector, those who are involved, because we do not make decisions on our own. Decisions cannot be made in a vacuum. We need to get the support of everyone. And I am now in the process of working with a team to prepare a media campaign for Iloilo City, which all the other investors in Iloilo have already committed to support, together with broadcast companies. We have done everything that DOH has told us, but the cases continue to go up. Now, probably we really have to think out of the box. One of this will be a massive media campaign for our people to observe the minimum health standards. And you have to understand that unless the people understand why they have to observe all the minimum health standards, it will be very, very, very difficult. Government must work together with the people, and it should not be alienated from the people. That is what I wanted Secretary Locsin to understand. That here in Iloilo it's different. You attack one, you attack the whole thing. You attack everyone. And we will not allow ourselves to be attacked by someone who does not even know what is happening here.
Isa po sa mga tinututukan ninyong proyekto dyan, yung pong pamamahagi ng tulong, ayuda sa inyo pong mga constituents. Tulong po ito sa pamamagitan ng COVID-19 Emergency Operation Center po dyan. Ano po yung update sa Mayor Jerry kung ilan na po ang nabibigyan natin ng mga pagkain, itong family food packs?
Ay, marami na.
Opo.
We have been giving since the start of this pandemic. It is only now that the SWD has started to support us. Everything has been procured by the city government. Everything has been donated by the Iloilo businessmen. It is only now that the SWD has started to support us with food packs. Marami na talaga.
Alright, maraming salamat, dagang kayong salamat sa inyong panahon at sa pagpapaunlak Mayor Jerry Treñas ng Iloilo City. Mensahe na lang po, sir. Maigsing mensahe na lang po, Mayor Jerry.
Thank you and good morning to everyone.
Thank you po, Mayor Jerry Treñas ng Iloilo City.
Yan, katulad nga nung sinasabi natin, Aljo, di ba? Sinabi ni Dr. Ong na although nag-flatten ng konti, pero hindi yun yung ideal na kailangan nating kunin. So, kailangan pa rin yung mahigpit na pagsunod sa health and safety protocols.
Right, tama yan.
Okay. Bukod po sa pagtulong sa pagsasaayos ng koneksyon ng internet sa bansa at pagtataguyod ng turismo, ngayon naman po ay katuwang siya ng ating gobyerno sa paglaban sa COVID-19. Kaya naman po makakausap po natin ang alkalde ng Narvacan sa probinsya ng Ilocos Sur. Good morning po, Mayor Luis Chavit Singson.
Good morning. Magandang umaga sa inyo lahat.
Good morning po, Mayor. Mayor, bukod po sa pag-aaruga sa inyong nasasakupan sa Narvacan, Ilocos Sur, ay may isa po sa mga proyekto ngayong may pandemya ay upang maiwasan na rin po yung pagkalat ng sakit, yung pong pagkakaloob po ng automated payment machine sa mga LGU sa buong bansa. Ano po ang kinabahan nito sa ibang payment machine?
Ang payment machine nito makakatulong sa ating COVID dahil hindi na iikot pa ang tao. Dahil yung machine natin, connected na lahat ng mga bangko at mga malalaking company like mga padala ng pera, hindi na sila po iikot-ikot pa kung sa mga padala. Doon na mismo sa palengke nila, sa munisipyo, at kung saan man gusto yung mayor, doon natin ilalagay, libre yung machine. At yung mga partner natin ng bangko, siyempre hindi libre yung tanggalin mo yun, wala namang ipag-partner sa atin. Ngayon, like for example, video, magpadala ka 5,000, meron sila sinisingil 50 pesos, yun lang. Pero yung convenient fee ng machine, tinanggal po natin lahat. Processing fee ng machine, tinanggal natin lahat. So tulong lang talaga sa taong bayan yan. At pati machine, libre. Walang gastos ang gobyerno, walang gastos ang munisipyo na kukuha noon. Tulong lang sa ating mga kababayan. At meron din kasama yan na inaayos pa namin, hindi pa binibigay dahil magbibigay tayo ng debit card, Visa card, meaning Visa card international with bank account. Kasi karamihan nating kababayan, 70% walang bank account. So hindi umikot ang ekonomiya at tinatago-tago lang ang pera nila kung saan-saan. So ngayon, naisip namin tumulong ngayong COVID, hindi na sila pupunta sa bangko. Yung tayo lang nagpunta sa bangko, nagpa-usap, na bibigay natin yung debit card with bank account. Marami na pong bangko, kapartner natin at ang bangko, pero yung mga tumulong sa pagbibigay ng credit card, meron ng ibang bangko. Hindi namin pwede ibigay sa isang bangko lang dahil kapartner natin at ang bangko. So, automatic yun, yung sino yung bangkong yun, like China Trust ang isa, iba pa, automatic may bank account. So, malaking bagay yung may bank account. Ibig sabihin nun, mga relative o kaibigan na abroad can now send money direct to their account. Yung machine naman, pag wala pa yung card, kaya binibigyan namin dahil nagagamit na nila ngayon yung machine. Lalong-lalo na yung mga negosyante natin sa palengke, puro online na ngayon. Ngayon, magbabayad sila sa bangko, pupunta pa sila sa bangko, oras kung magantay, magsasarap pa ng alas 3. Yung machine 24 hours. Hindi na sila pupunta sa bangko pa, doon na sa machine mismo, real time. Pagbayad nila ron, lilipat agad real time. Dahil yung machine na yan, hindi lang wifi, kundi nakakonect sa satellite. So yun po ang advantage yung machine. Para kung binigyan ng bangko, lahat ng bayan, hindi lang isa, dalawa or more, pwede tayo maglagay ng mga machine na libre para sa taong bayan. Yan ang talagang tulong dahil tinanggal ko lahat yung babayarin, like yung processing fee, convenient fee sa machine, tinanggal ko po lahat para makatulong sa taong bayan.
Opo. Mayor, pero kumusta naman po yung pagtanggap ng mga LGU sa inyong proyekto at ilang payment machine na po ba ang naibibigay at saan-saan lugar na po ito, Mayor?
Marami na sa buong Ilocos at sa kahapon galing ako sa Pila, Laguna, o sa Pulatang Mayors doon at nagre-request na lahat bawat bayan ng machine dahil malaking tulong sa kanilang lahat ng munisipyo. So, nandito ako ngayon, katatapos lang Caloocan City, nanggaling na rin ako, nakapagbigay na rin tayo sa Quezon City kay Mayor Joey Belmonte at lalagyan niya lahat ng mga 6 na distrito at mga palengke nila. Marami yun. Ganon din dito sa Caloocan, nag-request na si Mayor Oka Malapitan na lalagyan din yung mga malalaking barangay niya. At pwede, lalagyan natin lahat ng mga barangay niya na malalaki para hindi na iikot ang tao kung saan-saan. Doon na sa barangay nila, pwede na mag-transact lahat ng mga bangko, lahat yung mga padala, money remittances, lahat-lahat. Pwede magbayad ng Meralco, SSS, GSIS, NBI, pati US Visa, pwede na rin yan. Yung machine, nag-update from time to time, lahat yung mga kapartner pwede i-integrate yan. So marami lang kapartner yan. Lahat ng bangko, lahat ng nagpapadala ng pera, Palawan, Western Union, GCash, Paymaya, Western Union, lahat. So nagagamit na po lahat yan.
Pero Mayor, paano naman po makakarating itong payment machine na to sa mga liblib na lugar na mas nangangailangan po ng ganitong uri ng serbisyo?
Yung request lang ng Mayor, kasi lahat, karamihan ng Mayor nagre-request, doon na pinapadala. Pero kailangan i-explain ko rin para useless naman padala ko na hindi nila gagamitin. Dahil marami na kailangan itong machine na ito, malaking tulong sa kanila ito. Kaya lang, kailangan i-explain. Paano paggamit. Madali lang, ituturo kayo yung machine mismo. Huwag silang matakot dahil kung makamali, pwede ulit-ulitin. Ang mga taong bayan natin hindi kasi sanay sa machine. Kasi yan, ikakalat natin, magagamit na. Yan ang bangko nila, yan na silang papadala ng pera, kamag-anak. Anywhere, mapapadala na nila ng pera. So, yun po yung machine. Pero pa yung credit card na pamimigay natin, to follow yun, dahil matagal ang integration yung debit card, dahil may visa na yun, ibig sabihin kung may visa card, international, worldwide. At meron na rin QR, meron na rin Stripe, pang swipe, meron ng cloud, top wave, kumpleto. So hindi ordinaryong debit card ang ibibigyan natin. Mahalaga yon dahil libre rin yun. Ibibigyan natin libre. Tulong sa taong bayan. So yun po ang programa yun na pinungunahan lahat ng mga mayors, city mayor, municipal mayor, and all the LGUs. Katulong po yan. So yun po ang tulong natin sa ating mga kababayan.
Opo, Mayor, puntahan natin yung tanong ng ating ilang mga kasamahan sa media. Ito po tanong ni Evelyn Quiroz ng Filipino Mirror. In a previous Laging Handa briefing po, you mentioned about the successful use of satellites to help Narvacan students gain access to learning resources. How is the program at the moment? Has the region followed your initiative?
Yung ibig sabihin, yung satellite.
Yes, Mayor.
Yung satellite pa. Yung...
Go ahead, Mayor. Yung last po nating interview sa inyo.
Yeah, yung satellite, yun lang ang pwedeng magbato sa remotest area of the Philippines. Lahat ng telebisyon dito sa Pilipinas, puro terrestrial antenna or microwave antenna. Ibig sabihin, diretso lang. Hindi po makaabot sa mga remote areas. Only satellite. Dahil sa Pilipinas, punong-puno ng bundok. Hindi makakaabot yung terrestrial antenna. Lahat ng telebisyon, TV, Channel 2, Channel 7, kung meron man silang antenna, kung saan yung antenna, 25 to 30 kilometers lang ang bato. Satellite lang pwede makabato sa mga remotest area. Hindi naman naglagay ng Channel 2 o Channel 7 sa mga remotest area dahil walang pera dyan. So, only satellite can reach sa remotest area. Yun ang sinabi namin sa DepEd, sinadjust namin, na kung gamitin itong Gracia Telecom blended learning, yun lang talaga pwedeng aabot to the remotest area. Makakaservice sa mga walang signal. So, satellite lang. Ang gagawin natin, maglagay lang tayo sa remote areas ng satellite dish dahil ang Gracia Telecom meron teleport na makakapagpato sa satellite na very clear. So, yan ang advantage sa Gracia Telecom. Yung mga iba, wala naman wala satellite. So, like for example, yung mga iba nag-suggest dyan sa DepEd, doon lang sa Metro Manila. Pero paano nila mapapaabot sa remote areas? Wala, hindi abot. So, yun lang satellite na pwede mag-abot as far as satellite is concerned.
Okay. Mayor, maraming salamat po sa inyong pagpapaunlak ngayong umaga. Mayor Luis Chavez Singson ng Narvacan, Ilocos Sur. Stay safe po, Mayor.
Maraming salamat din. Thank you.
Samantala, puntahan na natin ang mga balitang nakalat ng ating mga kasamahan mula sa Philippine Broadcasting Service. Ihahatid yan ni Ria Arevalo.
Maraming salamat, Yusek Rocky. Para sa ating mga balita, NFA Cagayan, tuloy-tuloy ang pagbili sa aning bigas ng mga magsasaka. Kabuang bilang umabot na sa 7,000 sako. Mula RP to Gagaraw, narito ang report ni Florence Sarcina.
COVID Radio. Hashtag Laging Handa Radyo Pilipinas Special Coverage.
Puspusan pa rin ang pagbili ng National Food Authority o NFA Cagayan ng aning bigas ng mga magsasaka sa 19 na piso kada kilo na mas mataas kaysa sa presyo ng private grains businessmen. Ayon kay NFA Provincial Manager Emerson Ravilas, nasa mahigit 200,000 sako na ang imbak ng palay ng kanilang mga bodega sa Tugigaraw, Camalanyugan, Gonzaga at Gataran. Pununaan niya ang mga bodega sa bahagi ng Camalanyugan at Gataran na ngayon ay inaalis na ang laman upang may espasyo pa para sa pagdating ng mga bentang palay ng mga magsasaka at dinadala sa malalaking silo ng ahensya sa Itiaga, Isabela. Ipinagmalaki naman ni Ravilas na sila ang leading palay procurement branch sa Rehiyon 2. Tiniyak naman ng opisyal na sila ay mayroong sapat na pondo para dito, kung saan nasa 7 bilyong pisong inilaang pondo para sa buong bansa upang bumili ng 1.6 milyon na sako ng palay ngayong taon. Binibilisan naman ngayon ng ahensyang pagbili ng palay upang may maipantusto sa relief requirement ng mga LGU at DSWD pagdating ng mga kalamidad. Samantala, nasa mahigit 7,000 sako ng bigas ang kabuang imbak ng NFA sa malalaking bodega sa probinsya. Mula sa DWPE Tugigaraw, Florence Tarsina, Radyo Pilipinas.
Maraming salamat, Florence. Samantala, mahigit 800 empleyado ng Iloilo City Hall balik trabaho na matapos magnegatibo sa swab test. Mula RP Iloilo, narito ang detalye kay Janelle Baclay.
COVID Radio. Hashtag Laging Handa. Radyo Pilipinas Special Coverage.
Balik opisina na ang higit 800 empleyado ng Iloilo City Hall matapos magnegatibo sa RT-PCR test na isinagawa noong September 23 hanggang September 26. Mahigpit na sinusuri ng mga gwardya sa City Hall kung nasa listahan ng mga nagnegatibo ang mga pumapasok sa City Hall. Sa datos ng Iloilo City Government, may 2,385 na empleyado ang sumailalim sa test at halos nasa 75% na ang bumalik sa trabaho. Hindi naman pinapahintulutan na makapasok ang wala pang mga resulta. Sa pinakahuling datos ng City Health Office, umabot na sa 54 ang mga nagpositibo sa COVID-19 at agad namang ni-refer sa mga quarantine facilities. Halos 5 araw na naka-lockdown ang City Hall noong nakaraang linggo dahil sa pagtaas ng kaso ng COVID-19, lalo na sa City Treasurer's Office kung saan umabot sa 33 ang mga nagpositibo. Janelle Baclay, Radyo Pilipinas.
At yan ang mga balita mula dito sa Philippine Broadcasting Service. Mula Radyo Pilipinas, ako po si Ria Arevalo. Balik tayo sa PTV Studios with Yusek Rocky and Aljo.
Maraming salamat, Ria Arevalo. Alamin naman natin ang pinakahuling balita mula naman sa PTV Cordillera kasama si Breves Bulsao.
Yes, magandang tanghali, Yusek Rocky at Aljo. Kung may mga munisipalidad sa Pilipinas na COVID-free, isa na rito ang Kabayan Benguet na kung saan ipinagmamalaki ng mga opisyal. Ayon kay Kabayan Municipal Mayor Faustino Aquisan, kahanga-hanga ang disiplina at pag-unawa ng kaniyang mga kababayan sa mga babala at pamantayan ng national at lokal na pamahalaan, kung kaya't sa loob ng 6 na buwan napanatili nila ang zero case ng COVID-19. Punteriya nila na zero COVID sa kanilang lugar hanggang Disyembre.
Fellow kabayan, hantayo nga relax ta zero COVID tayo, mintinaran tayo lahat tayo kabayan zero COVID. So self-discipline lahat tayo, sekreto tayo niya. So kitaan tayo dapat hingga na December zero tayo pa ilaan. No, iso ti Christmas tayo ti bagbagi tayo.
Istrikto din nilang sinusunod ang mga protocol sa sinumang papasok at lalabas na residente, lalo na ang mga negosyante at mga magsasaka na nagdadala ng kanilang mga gulay sa trading post. Wala ding balak ang LGU na buksan ang turismo.
Kaya ayaw namin na mabuksan yung turista kasi pag binuksan mo yon, yung mga hindi mo alam, yung asymptomatic, yung positive, baka dadagsa sila doon, masisira yung zero COVID sa sa kabayan. Yung secret naman kasi, yung S, self-discipline.
Sa 13 munisipyo ng Benguet, ang kabayan lang ang wala pang nagpositibo sa COVID-19. Bagamat may mangilan-ilang kaso sa mga karatig munisipyo ng kabayan dito sa probinsya ng Benguet, inaasahan ng alkalde na hindi makakapasok ang virus sa kanilang bayan. Yan ang balita mula dito sa PTV Cordillera. Breves Bulsao para sa Bayan.
Maraming salamat, Breves Bulsao ng PTV Cordillera. Mula dyan sa Cordillera, tumungo tayo sa mga kaganapan sa Cebu. Kasama si Jan Arua. Jan, mayong udto.
Mayong udto, Aljo, gumagamit ngayon ang Danao City Government sa Cebu ng teknolohiya para mapabilis at mapadali ang pagsasagawa ng contact tracing at monitoring ng COVID-19 cases mula sa kanilang mga barangay. Mas mainam daw ito kumpara sa mano-manong paraan na pangangalap ng datos dahil bukod sa automated ito, synchronized din ang sistema sa ibang ahensya ng pamahalaan.
Sa gitna ng laban sa COVID-19, ang contact tracing ang isa sa pinakamahirap na trabaho ng pamahalaan para madaling makontain ang virus. Nakadagdag pa ang mano-manong paraan na pangangalap ng datos. Kaya naisipan ng Danao City Government sa Cebu na gumamit ng makabagong teknolohiya para mapabilis at mapadali ang pagsasagawa ng data gathering. Ito ang Pandemic Watch, isang software na may kakayahang maitransmit real-time ang mga datos sa isang database na nakasynchronize ang sistema sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno gaya ng Danao LGU, PNP at ng kanilang City Health.
Mas dali and mas accurate ang atong not only on the response but also on the analyzing yung decision making.
Pwede rin ma-customize ang Pandemic Watch base sa gustong maging disenyo ng LGU. Maaari rin maka-access ang sino mang otorisado makagamit ito kahit walang internet gamit lang ang smartphone. Maaari ding makita ng higit 40 barangay sa Danao City ang sitwasyon ng COVID-19 sa kanilang nasasakupan gamit ang Pandemic Watch. Sa ganitong paraan, mas mapadali na lang ang pag-monitor at pag-respondi sa mga emergency situations.
Tanan nga mga data gikan sa tanan mga sitio kada barangay, once nga ma-gather na dito, i-input na siya sa kanang data gatherer which is the contact tracer.
Bukod sa contact tracing, maaari din ito magamit sa pagtugon kung may outbreak ng sakit o sa disaster risk assessment ng mga lokalidad.
So this application will not only apply to COVID. After this, yung dengue, tsaka yung ibang mga pwede rin natin magamit to.
Aljo, sa kabila ng krisis dulot ng COVID-19, ang paglinang at pagyakap sa teknolohiya ang isa sa nakikitang pinakamabisang paraan para masolusyonan ang kinakaharap na problema ng ating bayan. Mula sa PTV Cebu, John Arua para sa Bayan.
Salamat John Arua ng PTV Cebu. Magbabalita naman dyan sa Davao City si Jay Lagang. Jay, kamustang Davao?
Magandang araw, Aljo at Yusek Rocky. Target ng Department of Social Welfare and Development o ng DSWD Region 11 at tapusin na ngayong linggo ang pamamahagi ng second tranche ng Social Amelioration Program o SAP para sa mga qualified beneficiaries dito sa Davao Region. Aljo at Yusek Rocky, as of September 29, 2020 ay nasa 99.62% na mula sa 407,607 na bilang ng SAP Second Tranche beneficiaries dito sa Davao Region ang nabigyan na ng cash reference number upang kanilang maklaim ang emergency subsidy sa mga payment partners ng DSWD. Kasama sa naturang bilang ang mga qualified beneficiaries dito sa Davao City, pati na mga wait-listed beneficiaries mula sa iba't ibang bahagi ng Davao Region na qualified pero hindi nabigyan ng SAP subsidy sa unang bugso o noong first tranche. Natanggap ng mga SAP beneficiary ang kanilang ayuda sa isinagawang digital payout sa iba't ibang partner remittance centers at sa isinagawang mobile o direct cash payout sa mga malalayong barangay. Nagpapasalamat naman ang DSWD 11 sa tulong ng mga uniform personnel at ng mga opisyal mula sa iba't ibang barangay sa kanilang tulong upang mapanatiling payapa at masunod ang health protocols habang ginagawa ang payout. Samantala, ay ayon naman sa DSWD 11 ay may na-monitor silang mahigit sa 1,700 SAP beneficiaries na hindi nag-claim ng kanilang ayuda. Ayon sa naturang ahensya, posibleng hindi na ito kinuha ng mga beneficiaries dahil nakakuha na rin sila ng ayuda mula sa iba pang ahensya ng gobyerno. Ayon sa napagkasunduan ng DSWD at ng financial service provider na StarPay, ay kinakailangang makuha ng mga SAP beneficiary ang kanilang SAP subsidy sa loob lamang ng 15 days mula nang matanggap nila ang kanilang reference number. Isinagawa ang pangalawang bugso ng pamamahagi ng SAP dito sa Davao City matapos ma-extend ang Enhanced Community Quarantine o ECQ dito sa lungsod noong buwan ng Mayo. Samantala, Aljo at Yusek Rocky, doon naman sa mga qualified pero hindi napabilang sa listahan ng mga qualified beneficiaries para sa second tranche ay nananawagan ng DSWD na makipag-ugnayan sa kanilang tanggapan ang naturang mga pamilya upang sa ganon ay pwede silang qualify ulit sa pagtanggap nitong naturang SAP subsidy. Yan muna ang latest mula dito sa PTV Davao. Jay Lagang para sa Bayan.
Salamat Jay Lagang, PTV Davao.
Pasalamatan na rin natin ang ating mga partner agency para sa kanilang suporta.
Lalo na ngayong may krisis tayong kinakaharap.
Nakita mo yung nagbigay ng regalo, Aljo.
Wow.
At yun po nagtatapos ang ating programa sa araw na ito. Mulit-muli po ang aming paalala. Be the part of the solution. Wear mask, wash hands, keep distance, stay at home. Ako po si Yusek Rocky Ignacio mula sa PCOO.
Ako naman po si Aljo Bentijo. Thank you, Yusek.
Thank you, Aljo. Samahan niyo muli kami bukas dito sa Public Briefing. #LagingHandaPH.